Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Charlotte, North Carolina has long been a hot spot for motorsport, though usually for oval racing. NASCAR, ARCA, World of Outlaws, the list goes on. The NHRA holds its own footing in Charlotte as well, racing at the Z-Max Dragway across the street from Charlotte Motor Speedway on the same land as the dirt track at CMS, but road racing's history in Charlotte has been a bit spotty throughout the years. Of course, Charlotte is known for the 1.5-mile quad oval that's home to the Coca-Cola 600, but it's the stretches of pavement within that have seen occasional sports car racing through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. The Charlotte Road Course never gained too much traction until 2017, when NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated announced that NASCAR's second yearly Charlotte event would move to the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval. Now the 2.28-mile, 17-turn course holds it onto its own history, always adding to those pages, and we get to do just that this evening. Welcome, race fans, to PitStop TV. As usual, we're live to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter tonight. Noah Carmichael and Joe Donahue join me in the booth. Trey Shuttlesworth on our social media coverage. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is PitStop TV's live coverage of the Bluegrass Iracing Series. We join you tonight from the virtual Concord, North Carolina, for race number 10 of 12 on the season. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this evening. Of course, it's going to be a wild race. We've seen some wild races as of late. I think this one still is going to take the cake. We've seen Bristol, we've seen Dega. Now we get to see the Roval 1 week ahead of Martinsville. This thing is heating up, as are the point standings. And let's just get right into it, boys, because this is something. We've got 3 ties throughout the entire league, and all 3 are in the top 10. Not only the top 10, but the top 8. there's only 2 drivers in the top 8 that are not tied with somebody else. And one of those ties is for our points lead. Somehow, Justin Winters was able to drop last week's race at Talladega, and because of the drop weeks, the race that is now counted actually moves him tied with Travis Miller for the points lead. So it's kind of tricky to follow sometimes, but these drop weeks can really change things up, and it allows these guys to have a couple of mulligans in their back pockets. Justin Winters using one of those last week, Noah Carmichael, because he had some problems. Alex Huffman gave us some insight as well during the race as to what was going on with that 88 car. Fuel issues all night long for Justin Winters from the second pit stop all the way through. It brought out a couple of yellows as well, and it just destroyed the 88 car's evening. But in the end, I think it actually worked out for him, coming out tied now with Travis Miller.
Yeah, it's really weird because ever since Pocono, he's kind of been on a little bit of a downward spiral. Not really what you would see in the points, because he's still tied for the points lead with Travis Miller. But since then, he's had a string of second-place finishes, which you think be bad. But for him, it's frustrating being so close to a win. And then in Talladega, it's just all coming undone. All the work that he did to try and take back the points lead with 2 pit stop failures just derails his whole race. Luckily for everybody else, it was pretty much a typical Talladega race where everybody, half the field ends up on a wrecker. So it really just made everything that much more interesting, and now we have an incredible points fight coming into the Charlotte Roval, which we already talked about. We've already seen an incredible Roval race. For instance, last night with Operation E Motorsports had an incredible MX-5 race on this circuit, and I get to see the Cup Series do it once again. Winters is actually only 7th fastest, while Miller is fastest, so points already in effect. We're looking at a pretty important night here unless Justin Winters can turn around.
Yeah, absolutely. Noah said it, and this group of races we've seen from Bristol, Talladega, the Roval here, and then we're going to Martinsville. This is a wild card slew of events, and for Travis Miller to be up front right now with the fastest time, Justin Winters a little bit further down the order. These races kind of act as an interesting dynamic, especially with the 2 drop events, that the drivers don't necessarily have to have a great day every week they come out, but obviously trying to win every race they can. And it's going to be really interesting to see if maybe this race has an effect for one of the 2 drivers tied in the championship lead and doesn't for the other. Something could happen. It's an interesting race. The Roval's an interesting track. The inside sections of the course with the hills, as you see Nick Noggle in the background going up and down through, and then onto the banking. Obviously, the track's a very dynamic and interesting one. And we're excited to see the technical aspect of racing that these drivers are going to have to be contending with this evening, that they definitely did not have to deal with the technicality of a course last week at Talladega.
And you see the rest of the point standings on your screen. We've left this up because I also want to highlight the battles for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, because 2 drivers, Daniel Worthington and last week's winner Adam Lancaster, are tied for 5th position, while Les Wiggin and Matt Grenier are tied for 7th position. So those 4 drivers only 2 points apart, if you can believe it. That's rather incredible, and they're not so far back of 4th place as well. Brandon Robertson in trouble of losing some spots here this evening unless he can really capitalize on this wild card opportunity. I think 4 wild card races in a row in Bristol, Talladega, the Roval, and Martinsville, and then we have a relatively tame finale for that 400-miler at Kentucky Speedway. If you're unfamiliar with this Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, let's try and take you through some of it. So right now, Nicholas Noggle will go on board of him. He is driving into turn 6, top of, I think, Redneck Hill, down to the infield here at Charlotte. Now he's going to roll through turn 7, that dip. He's going to come over a bit of a rise, then take another dip and some hard compression up into turn 8 to get back onto the familiar Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval. He'll go around what are called turns 9 and 10, but we'll refer to them mostly as NASCAR 1 and 2, just like you would at Daytona. And then he's going to fly down the backstretch into a very hard and tricky braking zone, a very hard and tricky chicane, turns 11 and 12. before re-entering the oval, going through NASCAR 3 and 4, also turns 13 and 14, before finally completing his lap in the final chicane. This is where Jimmy Johnson had some trouble in 2018, the inaugural running here at the Roval for the NASCAR Cup Series. That's turns 15, 16, 17. It's an interesting bunch of corners. Then you re-enter turn number 1, which is, I think, what, 500, 600 feet before where you would actually go into it. You're going to have this infield section. It's almost like Daytona's. I think it's relatively the same kind of thought process where you enter the the infield, turn left, then have a couple of rights, but you're missing that kink, and it all just works a bit differently. Round turns 3 and 4, kind of a carousel section, and then we're right back at turns 5 and 6. Noah, it's an interestingly technical place, and it's very interesting that NASCAR made the move to come here with SMI, and you see Nicholas Noggle going around at the top of turn 6. I think that's going to be a trouble spot this evening.
Yeah, very interesting track indeed. It was a very controversial ad when it was announced that they were going to do it, but for a lot of fans, it was an exciting announcement, and ever since then, it has proven to be a worthy ad to the Cup Series schedule. Now we're seeing with the Xfinity schedule as they come here as well. And what we're going to see this weekend, I know Andrew's really excited about this, the IMSA Series taking the GT cars to the Charlotte Roval, so that's going to be a very exciting.
And I'll be sitting right about there with Mr. Big Pat, Trey Patton, as we pass it, directly ahead from turn 8. That's going to be blinding.
Yeah, it's a very fast circuit. And for the GT cars, a lot of more downforce in these Cup cars. It's going to be very exciting. We see coming on to the back straightaway, this is the first gear corner that Justin Winter is going to have to take. I was talking about him being 7th fastest. I think he didn't take too kindly to that, because right now he's 2nd fastest in qualifying. He's only 2/10 off of Travis Miller, who currently holds the points lead. But how about that for a storyline? Coming into the race now, the two people tied for the points leader right now on the front row, as now Winters is going to try and take back that pole, coming into what I call Cowabunga corner because of the Teenage Mutant Turtle curve that was painted there. Now across the start finish line, you're going to see, no, he does not improve. He just pulls off a 19.5, so that's about good for the 4th position, so he'll have to take over the current outside pole position, as now he's probably going to do what he's been doing all week for the past few races, which is use another lap and then practice the green flag pit stop, as now you look on board Travis Miller.
Yeah, and putting the two guys who are leading the championship right on the front row, you'd think that would have some impact on the start, but these guys got to be patient. You know the technicality of this course, and it's a road course, so you can't stay side by side forever. Travis Miller and Justin Winters are going to try to be thinking big picture when they start this race, and presumably they'll jump in line and hopefully kind of stay patient for a little while, try to get a couple laps down, try to get the tires warmed up. This track is going to be killing tires. Obviously, any road course would be killing tires on the stock car. They're big and heavy. They got relatively small tires, I should say. Goodyear rubber underneath them is not going to be holding up quite as well as it would, say, at a regular ovals course. However, I think that's going to be a major factor in the strategy of this race. It's going to be a major factor in the abilities of these excellent drivers here in the Bluegrass Iracing Series to be bringing their cars around. As we continue qualifying, obviously, only 2 laps not going to have a big factor of tire degradation. On your qualifying laps here. You just get them up to temperature and run them in a little bit. But throughout the course of the race, it'll be interesting to see who's using their tires up quicker, who's trying to conserve them, save fuel, use fuel, all of those interesting factors that become a regular part of the strategy of a road course race. And for a stock car driver, obviously, they're still important when you're running an oval race, but a very different aspect of tire wear and saving your tires throughout the course of a road course event.
And if we reverse to the last time we had NASCAR Cup cars here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, Noah, you did some of the LTAC coverage way back in July and August, and the LTAC Cup Series had an interesting time here where Logan Hamilton, he led the entire race, then made an interesting 2-tire call on the final pit stop they had stage racing at the time, and it was only a little bit over, I think, a full fuel run, but they had to come in, they had to get some tires and fuel. He made that interesting call to get tires, but only get 2 of them, while everybody else took 4, and firstly, it is a bit odd to take only 2 tires at a road course, but that proves just how important even just 2 tires are on these race cars. I think all-night tire is going to be a premium, even if you just run 1 or 2 laps. Well, actually, this is a great point, a great thing to lead into. Let's talk about the weather, because it's not all that hot here, but it's still going to grind these tires away. It's such an interesting track and such a diverse set of corners that are going to wear these Goodyear tires out.
Yeah, this is a very abrasive track. You remember back in 2005, the tire scandal they kind of had here for the Coke 600 of just tires blowing out. Immediately the day after the race, Bruce Smith tears out or Humpy Wheeler, I believe, tore out the pavement and just redid it all because of how bad that race was. But still, it was just a very abrasive track for these tires. Road course racing, nonetheless, as Robertson putting his foot down on the table, slamming down a 18.4, almost 0.4 of a second faster. And now the top 4 in points are 1, 2, 3, 4. Not exactly the same order, but man, what a shot on the board for the number 2 machine.
Yeah, well, Brandon Robertson's a very strong driver. He's a little aggressive. He's a fast guy in this series. We see him up front all the time. Throughout the course of the season, he's won 2 events, obviously, throughout this year so far. Richmond and Indy being those 2 events. And Richmond and Indy, two very different tracks. So Brandon Robertson showing he's capable of winning at different sorts of events. And if you're going to win today, you definitely have to be able to show that. This is definitely a unique race on the calendar, and the Roval is just a completely different wildcard type of event for these drivers. So some skill's going to need to come out today. Brandon Robertson showing that he's got what it takes to get a car around the track quickly. However, can he get it around the track quickly over the course of an entire race? That's what we have to wait and see.
We're also going to see how David Brackett, well, I was going to say we will see how David Brackett does here in qualifying as he blows that final chicane. It is interesting because in NASCAR, they make you stop for that chicane if you miss it. Any part of it, if you caught any part of it, you got to stop there on the front stretch. It's not quite the same in iRacing. You don't have to stop, but you do have to give quite a bit of time back. We'll see drivers battle that all night long. We saw them battle it last night in Operation E Motorsports, in the Operation E Motorsports race here with those Mazda MX-5s that Noah referenced, and it was interesting to see those guys tackle it, though. They did have to deal with the 2018 chicane, which they made a change to this course between the 2018-2019 seasons. They dug out a whole portion of the infield and kind of extended that chicane to what you see now, that very hard braking zone, as opposed to just the fast left-right flick that caught so many drivers off guard in 2018 and tore up some race cars and caused some big incidents. We saw those kinds of incidents last night in that Opmo race. Qualifying wraps up. Brandon Robertson, he's going to be one to watch to see if he can try and mount a comeback in just 3 races to try and get a championship after all. He will start on pole position, and alongside of him, we're going to have Travis Miller. Comes in tied for the points lead with Justin Winters, and these two have been going at it since week 1 back at Daytona International Speedway. Row number 2 is going to give us the 88 car of Justin Winters, who is tied for that tied for that points lead with. And then the other of the top 4, John Kinder right there. So the cream definitely rising to the top already in qualifying alone. Go back to row number 3, position number 5. You see the 05. Next to him, the 555. Joshua Abbey and Ed Osborne lining up in row number 3. Row number 4 gives us the 15 car of Matt Grenier and the 188 of Wes Wiggin. And finally, to round out our top 10, ladies and gentlemen, it's Chris LeBourgeois on the 83 and Adam Lancaster, last week's winner, in that number 28 car.
Starting back in the 11th position is going to be the 113 Jack Daniels Green Apple Ford Mustang of Daniel Worthington. Starting alongside him is the 51 of Brandon Young, looking to keep up with the momentum after an incredible comeback from Talladega. Scott Fritz in the number 100 UNOH Chevrolet lines up 13th, the last driver to set a time. David Brackett in the Yingling Chevrolet Camaro, words people, starts back around the 14th position. Sorry, I'm having trouble because Jason Collins' chat is popping up on there. Yeah. Oh, so I had it up on the wrong grid. Right, there it is. So David Brackett starts back in the 14th position. Jack Bauer starts back in the 15th position in the number 48 Ally Chevrolet. Wyatt Brackett in the 33 Red Bull machine starts back in 16th. Brian Terry rolls off 17th in the number 13 Tequila Patron. Nicholas Nago, who had 2 bad qualifying attempts due to just mistakes in the infield, rounds it out in 18th. Josh McKenney starts in 19th, not on the track, and then Nick Mills will round out the field in 20th, also not on the track.
So the cars roll off. We're getting ready to go. I got to see if we can warm up the tires a little bit for the green flag. It'll be interesting coming through that last chicane. The drivers are going to want to be side by side and try to stay on the tail of the car, leading them to the green, unless obviously you are the leader of your line, Travis Miller and Brandon Robertson. But we're going to try to stay tight together because you don't want to lose time to your competitors before the green flag is even waving. You don't want to be behind the game, and you want to try to stay up as close to the front as possible. But I would watch to make sure that we don't have a big incident in the first corner, and hopefully the drivers can keep it clean. They're coming out of the infield section now on their warm-up lap, and we will see them on Speedway Turn 1 getting ready to go for tonight's race.
So we see everybody forming up, and that's a satisfying number 22 car on the outside row, not only because I'm a Joey Logano fan, but that is just a pretty paint scheme. That metallic gold, thanks to the relatively new, it's almost a year old now, ability for spec maps here on the iRacing.com service. So, I mean, that's just beautiful to see that metallic gold out there. The white and the red, interesting color choice, but the gold makes it all worth it. You see the 2 and the 22 making up row number 1, and again, Brandon Robertson going to be one driver to watch this evening because he's had a rough couple of goes these last 2 times out at Bristol and Talladega, but he is close to being in that championship fight. He's just got to get a couple of really good races, and those other guys he's fighting have to have some big mess-ups. He's got to make up a lot of points these last few races at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval tonight, Martinsville Speedway next week, and Kentucky Speedway in 2 weeks' time. You see the rest of the top 4 in points along there with him. Travis Miller, Justin Winters in the 22 and 88. They enter tied for the points lead. John Kinder in the 21 car. The Rams 1 Ford Mustang local to Charlotte Motor Speedway from Mooresville, North Carolina. He is 12 points out of that points lead. We get ready to come to our race start. The big difference is that we are going to have to go through that chicane to get things going here at Charlotte. We're waiting on the signal from the starter to light things up. The green flag flies, and it's a very tight start. Already contact between the top 2, and they'll race off into turn number 1 here at the Roval.
And as they round out of the oval turn number 4 down to 15, 16, and 17, Robertson out with the early advantage. Miller trying to chase him down, but can't find the zone to pass. He had him going into that backstretch chicane a little bit, but Robertson just went a full-on send into there. A little bit of big D energy as now he heads back into turn number 1 up through the infield road course. Miller trying to close down as he comes through the Bank of America section of the racetrack. And be very careful, like we talked about in Operation Motorsports last night. You get on the flat bit of that the paint there, you're going to go straight into the tire barriers. That's what happened to Nicholas Noggle in qualifying, because now they head up to what I call a dead man's curve of 5, 6, and 7. Just a very blinding uphill corner down through the dip as they get ready to head it back onto the oval, as Miller now might take a peek this time by.
Yeah, Miller got a nice run out of turn 7 there and up along the inside through the speedway turns 1 and 2. The number 22 Ford Mustang on the inside of Brandon Robertson, and he noses ahead on the inside line. He's going to take advantage of that, and coming down the backstretch into the braking zone, he's going to be on the inside. Brandon Robertson holding back a little bit. Usually Brandon a little bit of an aggressive driver. He likes to race hard in that tied number 2, but he gave Travis Miller the room. He knows that you can't win a race in the first few laps, but you can definitely lose it. So Travis Miller takes over the race lead from Brandon Robertson as they come down into the 15, 16, 17
Oh,
complex.
and he takes him
contact!
out!
Travis Miller got hit in the rear by Brandon Robertson in that braking zone. Wonder why he slowed down so much. It looked like Travis Miller slowed down a lot more than the number 2 car anticipated, and obviously he got into the tail of the number 22 machine. So now Brandon Robertson stuck with some damage on the front end, Travis Miller on the rear, and third and fourth, John Kinder, Justin Winters have caught up to these two. Big championship implications for that little contact right there. So you see the number 88 got sideways out of turn number 4. Turn number 5 here, a quick kink corner, obviously not as quick in a stock car as, say, other types of motorsport machinery, but Travis Miller still leading with the damaged number 22 over the number 2 car. Not quite sure what happened with those two, but they keep it moving. They're flowing down through the Speedway 1 and 2 now with third and fourth on their tail, John Kinder and Justin Winters.
Yeah, I'm astonished by what happened there in the final chicane. Even if Miller slowed down a little bit more, a little bit earlier, I mean, that's his prerogative to do so if he doesn't feel safe going into the corner. And Robertson just, I don't think, was ready for it and just ran right into the back of him so hard, too. I mean, the nose of his car already junked. And these are the kind of little things that have happened to Brandon Robertson, be it his fault or not, that have just taken him completely out of a chance, I think, to win this championship. It's going to be so tough to win these last few races or at least be second or third while also getting big mistakes out of these other 3 that he's racing. I'm not sure it can happen. It's going to be really, really difficult for Robertson to make it work. And again, it's those little things like that add up over the course of time that I think are going to hold the number 2 car back. But they race on, and Miller loose there in turn 3. That compression can really get a car caught off guard, and especially trying to get back to the power through that section of racetrack. It's tough. And with these big motors and small blades here, Noah, it's even more tough.
Yeah, these cars are a lot to handle on a course like this, and this is also the first and only road course race of the season we see out of the guys in the Bluegrass Iracing Series. So there's a lot of unknowns coming into this. We've been used to seeing the short tracks, the super speedways, and the mile and a half that these guys have been running. So now this is really the first true test to see who's really the all-rounded driver that's the best in the league. And right now, you're looking at it, the top 4. If you want to know why exactly the points from 4th to 5th is such a huge gap, even though it's only 10 points, it's still a big gap on back. This is why. The top 4 are about less than close to 2 seconds, and then the car behind them, 5 seconds. And by no means is that a diss on Ed Osborne, who's having a terrific start here at the Roval, running in 5th right now, but these guys are in a class of their own because they're putting on a show up here in the top 4, and Ed Osborne is right now leading what you might call Bluegrass 1.5 back there in the mid-pack, or even the top 5. It's still just an incredible start for these 4 drivers, and also for Ed Osborne.
Yeah, we could give Ed Osborne some credit. He's one of those guys who doesn't always get a great opportunity to run up front. Charlotte here, the Roval being a very different type of race for these guys. Ed Osborne had a chance to come in here and make some noise for himself in that 555 car. He's just excited to be here. He's excited to run up front. I know we've talked with John Kinder in the past who said Ed Osborne very excited to be up front in the top 5, top 10 area when he gets to the this Bluegrass Iracing Series. A very tough group of cars, very competitive, and a lot of really great drivers out here. It's awesome to see. It provides some awesome racing, some excellent stuff for us here to broadcast on to YouTube and Facebook and such with PitStop TV. There we get some awesome stuff out of these awesome drivers. But for Ed Osborne to be running in the top 5 right now, he's going to be loving this.
So the top 4 is still rather tight-knit. About a second and a half separating these guys. Been riding on board with John Kinder here for a moment. And they're starting to separate a little bit, and you'll see this here at the Roval because these corners are so tough, so technical that it's just going to string these guys out just a little bit. But the battle is on behind that. Ed Osborne is pretty solidly into 5th, Grenier in 6th. And actually, I said the battle is on. Everybody's very spread out. I see this now. But there is a battle for 10th spot. And this is Brandon Young and Daniel Worthington. This is worth looking at because Daniel Worthington's in a pretty good spot in points. He's one of those drivers tying for 5th place right now.
Yeah, this is kind of talked about in Operation Motorsports last night. You're going to expect a hectic start because everyone's going to try and get those positions as fast as they can. But once you get around to the, I'd say, close to 7 or 8 in this scenario, like once you get around the 5th minute in that race, you're just kind of setting it in there because, you know, this is a very long race and you're not going to win it on the first lap. And we've seen a lot of drivers in Operation Motorsports made some very crucial mistakes that cost them a good top 5 position that ended up making them fall all the way outside the top 10 and have to work their way up. So this is the same exact thing a lot of these drivers are doing. You're not going to see too many hard fighting positions. Obviously, with Robertson running into the back of Miller there, that's just kind of how the start was. You want those positions, and you're running as aggressive as you can on the start, but now they're just going to try and settle into a rhythm and work towards those green flag pit stops to try and work on pit strategy. As now Robertson, with a huge amount of momentum as he heads towards 15, 16, and 17, expect him to make a move. He is going to make a move on the left side of him. No, the right side of him. No, it is the right side. He's not going to clear him, as now Miller still holds on to the race lead.
Yeah, and we could talk about Daniel Worthington being such a consistent driver to get himself so far up into the points. He hasn't really made the big noise types of finishes that other drivers, like obviously like Travis Miller, like John Kinder, Justin Winters, have made with victories and top 3s, but he's been slowly trekking through the season, getting points wherever he can. He's had some solid finishes, but he's never quite broken a big event, and I think he actually has yet to finish in the top 3 so far this season. And as now he's slowing on the front stretch here. You saw he had to give up some time on the course, but he's going to be able to continue on here as he's getting passed by Jack Bauer right now. So that definitely is going to hurt the Jack Daniels number 113, and he's going to have to try to dig that hole, dig out of that hole he's just put himself in, that mistake on his own end.
And I mentioned the way that these drivers have to give time back is a bit different from the real NASCAR races. That's because you are not forced to stop right there on the exit of the corner down the front stretch, but you can if you'd like to give up time that way. The way the time give back system works, if you will, the time cut system, is that it gives you an X amount of time to give back an X amount of time, if that makes sense. Probably not a great way to explain it, but basically you cut a corner by a little bit, you might have 30 seconds to give back 1.5 seconds of time on the racetrack. So you can either stop and give that back all in one instance, or you can give it back over time because you do have those 30 seconds. But we have a battle for the race lead. We see that up on the ticker. And Brandon Robertson, oh my gosh. I don't think we should leave this one for a little while now because they have switched things up, and Kinder up the inside of Miller. Almost contact right there into 3.
Now, because of that, Robertson's going to set sail out to about the biggest lead we've currently seen for the lead since lap number 1. Robertson now going to try and outrun it. As now going through Dead Man's Curve, is what I call it. It's 5, 6, and 7. They are side by side, which is very hard to do. They are still door to door. Those two are unrelentless. And Miller's like, come on, guys. We're letting him run away with this. It's already at about a second lead. As now Winters is going to say, all right, adios. I'm going to pass by you. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to take the points lead while doing so. So now Justin Winters ahead of him. Again, this is not only the fight for the 4th position, this is a fight for the points lead exiting here. Obviously, with Miller having led a lap, that's 2 more bonus points than what Justin Winters will get if this race goes the way it is and he doesn't lead a lap. But still, a very crucial moment here in the early goings of this race that could decide who's the points leader exiting Charlotte.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw that whole slew of cars all gaggle up together in the infield section previously, but Brandon Robertson definitely got a huge lead out of that when Kinder and Miller were side by side, and that's the type of thing that gets you on a road course. That's the sort of racing that allows drivers to get big leads like this tied number 2 has right now over John Kinder in the 21. So we'll have to see if John Kinder can slowly etch his way up there to the number 2 car, or maybe Justin Winters can get around him and take the fight up forwards. There is a lap car in the distance for Brandon Robertson. I believe it was so it was the number 100 of Scott Fritz. He had a lot of damage on the front end of that car, so pretty evidently he likely got into some sort of incident, maybe on his own, maybe with some help from a fellow competitor. But he seems to be holding a solid position of lead over Brandon Robertson through Speedway turns 1 and 2 right now. It will be a factor. We're not sure how much of a factor. Scott Fritz, a very respectful driver here in this series, as everybody is. Maybe will be able to get out of the way when the time comes for Brandon Robertson to get around that 100 car. And here you see it, the number 2 car through the inside of the number 100. So the Ohio native out of his way, knows he does not want to influence the major race lead and the front runners with his race, which has evidently already started off on the wrong foot.
Well, but he is going to stay in the way for now of second and third place. We'll see if he moves before turn 1. He's not going to. So this is going to be tricky for these guys battling for second and third. Now he gets up out of the way, lets them go by. It's interesting that he waited for the corner, but regardless, Scott was trying to get up out of the way and play nice for these guys. Miller gets out of the way, and that was actually kind of tough through that section from 1 to 2. And now this top 4 kind of separates, and I think the general feeling there was that Brandon Robertson was being held up by Travis Miller, interestingly, because the way those guys tried to pass, and did pass a 22 car, is they felt like they were getting held up and they needed to get going, because John Kinder made some interesting moves there to follow the number 2 car, and of course he's got to keep up with that 2 car if he wants to win, but those were interesting passes, as actually I think John Kinder clips the inside tires there on the inside of turn number 8. The car continues on, but might have a little bit of left side damage. If we were still in Miatas there, Noah, he might not have a left side mirror anymore.
You might not even have a left side front if you hit those tire barriers there. And if you're wondering what happened to Scott Fritz, he is our first victim of the heartburn turn. A couple laps ago, he came in there, overcooked it just a little bit, and then he just ends up nosing into the wall. So if you're wondering why he's driving a modified, that's why. He's stuck it in the tire barriers, ripped it right off, and that's what you see now. But still, the battle for second raging on. Is John Kinder going to maybe try and take a peek? Nope, they're going to fall in line. So now Justin Winters in the Allen's Body Shop number 88 is sporting the pink colors. This is the first time we've really seen him sport the pink. Yeah, just like our ticker with the breast cancer awareness months. But also, I think this is the first time we've seen him run a black car all season. We usually see him running the white paint scheme, so a little bit of a different throwback, but obviously with the message on the rear bumper of that 88 that we can't read out loud for censorship reasons, but still just a beautiful car, beautiful message, and right now a very strong run up there in the P2 position.
Yeah, the black and pink car is looking good. Allen's Body Shop, number 88, and he's running well, too. He's in second place right now, just a little over 2 seconds behind race leader Brandon Robertson in that number 2 tied Toyota. But Justin Winters has a pretty solid run so far. He hasn't really gotten into any trouble. We saw, and Noah, obviously, we've talked about the a little bit of aggressive moves that Kinder and Winters were trying to use to get around Travis Miller. Maybe Travis Miller's balance of the race car offset a little bit from the incident with Brandon Robertson. Travis Miller is just kind of goes. He just keeps moving. He puts the bullhorns on and he gets it done. He's a patient driver, and he's worked his way back up from the face of adversity so far in this season, especially at Bristol. We talked with him when he finished third place at Bristol about his ability to just race out an event and get to the finish with what he's got. Be smooth, be patient, be smart with the car he's driving. So luck for Travis Miller to pull it back together and maybe make a move up for the front, as now we're watching Jack Bauer in the Ally, number 48, with Daniel Worthington just behind him in the 113. These two right up with each other for 12th position on the racetrack.
Another change for position actually is Joshua Abbey loses a spot to Brandon Young. Jack Bauer hops those curbs, and that's going to drop the 48 car into the hands of the number 113 of Daniel Worthington. Worthington has dropped back a little bit since we last saw the 113 car and is now in the 13th position trying to get by Bauer for the 12th spot. And this is troubling actually for the 113 of Daniel Worthington. I mean, he had a good run going there, broke into the top 10, and now starting to sink down the running order. You have to wonder what's going wrong for the driver of the Jack Daniels Apple Ford Mustang. There is a battle ahead. As I mentioned, Joshua Abbey lost that spot to Brandon Young. Those two now nose to tail through the infield section of the course. Again, kind of the carousel almost through 3 and 4. And the 05 actually looks pretty clean. Primetime Sports Talk on that car, but the nose is a little bit dented up. Not quite as bad as Brandon Robertson's. And again, just like our tweet, you can follow along with our mid-race tweets and Facebook posts on Facebook and Twitter. Just like that tweet from Trey Shuttlesworth said, it's incredible that the two cars leading right now. That's something. That is definitely something. I think we're used to at this point, though, that 2 car being crunched up.
Yeah, and obviously Robertson, outside of the points fight, would love to get back in it, but if a big win here tonight might help him, but not too much. Maybe to get a fight going with John Kinder over the 3rd spot. Right now, he's trying to set sail away from the 88 machine. And if you're wondering a little bit on maybe the 113 falling back, the only guess I have as to why is, like we talk about every week, the 50% fuel limit, and also just the tire wear on this track. I looked through the practice times of a lot of the drivers who did, and the most they're running was around those 13 to 17. That was the most I saw was 17 laps like Chris LeBourgeois in the 83. That was the most I saw out of anybody, but out of the side of that, I'm guessing that we're going to start seeing these first round of pit cycles come up here in the next few laps. So that's maybe why the 113 is falling off the pace, and just because those Goodyear Eagles have ran their course, and now he's just trying to hold on to when he sees the leader's pit.
Yeah, and you can see with the onboard, he's wiggling through the corners. He's a little loose on entry and on exit. The number 113 car sliding through some of the corners. You saw him slide a little bit right there, turn 3. Coming through turn 4, when he gets back on the throttle, they actually kept it straight pretty well. But when you start sliding around on the tires, it's definitely going to tell you that these Goodyears are running out of steam, and you're going to need to try to get them replaced. But sliding sideways is not going to be helping it. So as you continue to run on these old tires, you're just degrading them more and more with these sliding corners that you see Daniel Worthington struggling with right now in that 113 car. So maybe Daniel will be on the front end of the drivers who come into pit lane. As Noah said, we're right about at what we expect to be the first round of green flag pit stops, because we are, as much as we've seen some cars getting into each other, we've seen a little bit of argy-bargy, but we are green flag racing still, and everybody's still chugging along smooth, but except Jack Bauer, as you see him sliding out of the chicane on the backstretch, turn 12. So the number 48 Ally machine going to get back up to speed here, and you see the number 83 Chris LeBourgeois coming through on the inside. Jack Bauer staying on the high side, trying to get his momentum back up in that Chevrolet, and on through turn 15, 16, 17 complex. He used up a little bit of those tires sliding sideways. Battle, but we're passing lap traffic here for Justin Winters, and he's just still chugging along. Actually, he fell back in the order. What happened to the number 88 machine?
Justin Winters has come down the pit lane. He has taken his pit stop, at least one of his pit stops. He's got a few to go, and this is a bit early as well because these guys only have 3 sets of tires. This is just past 1/5 of the way. This is interesting for the number 88 car. I wonder if he had some damage or what have you, but I don't think so because here come the other leaders. Brandon Robertson down the pit lane. Travis Miller down the pit lane. John Kinder stays out a little bit, I think, stretching these tires out, and you kind of have to. I'm interested that these guys are following Justin Winters right now because this is still a little bit early. I think they're going to make out just all right. I guess they have stretched it out just long enough to make it on 4 runs, but it's still... Yeah, no, I guess this is about actually on cue. It's only a little ways past 1/5 of the way, but it just feels early.
That's like I said, around lap 13 to 17 is when you might expect some of these guys to come in, because that's what I was seeing a lot of the drivers do in practice. So this is my opinion, right on cue, what I was expecting to see. So now you're going to see a lot of these drivers come down. John Kinder stays out trying to stretch it, which we're used to seeing out of him when it's not at a super speedway or perhaps even a short track for that matter, around those 1.5 miles. He has the ability for some reason to stretch out these fuel runs 3 or 4 or even 5 laps longer than anybody else on the field, which has been incredible to see, which has gotten him a few wins in this series. So now we're going to see how long he can do that. Another question, how long can Adam Lancaster go if he hasn't pitted already? I'm going to look at him. He looks to have been still in the racetrack. Yep, he has not pitted yet, so he is going to try and pull the same strategy. So the teammates, and here comes Kinder 1 lap later in.
Yeah, I know you stole the words right out of your mouth, right out of my mouth. I was just about to say John Kinder is one of those drivers who does the long runs, and especially if we think back to Pocono all the way back a couple weeks ago, John Kinder and Adam Lancaster were pulling a very unique strategy there. And so John Kinder likes to stretch out his pit stops. He likes to go a little bit longer than all his competitors, try to make the runs longer, and maybe that'll pay off for him in the end. You see him stopping his box really short. He will get in far enough for the services to commence in that 21 machine, but now into the pits, and presumably when he comes back out, he'll be a little bit further back in the grouping of the drivers he was competing with before the green flag pit stop cycle started. You see him coming out of the pits just behind the number 33. That's Wyatt Brackett, the New York driver. So some of the guys coming through now passing him as Travis Miller comes out right in front of him, and John Kinder goes around the number 33 with just behind Travis Miller in the 22, still holding on to that damage in the rear, but hopefully got a little bit of that fixed, and we'll trudge on in the number 22 machine, now back up to 3rd position.
So I guess it was a great move by Justin Winters to pit a bit early because the undercut works out. And, I guess these guys were totally on cue. It just felt early in the race for some reason. But Justin Winters takes his first pit stop, comes out, and has the race lead by a little ways over Brandon Robertson. You see the gap there. And these two now are battling for 3rd and 4th. Travis Miller with the advantage up into third position, but John Kinder having to fall back. This is a race where I think the undercuts are going to be supreme, because you can gain so much time, and it's going to be tough unless you're great at this stuff to make that time back up. No, I mean, John Kinder's got to hit his marks for lap after lap after lap to make up the time that is about 10, 11 seconds up to our race leader, Justin Winters. So it's going to be interesting. Meanwhile, Brandon Robertson does go purple. He sets our new fast lap, and Travis Miller still has company.
John Kinder does have the upper advantage as well, just being on about a lap or two fresher tires. Oh, he hops the curb, and unlike the Miatas we saw yesterday, where they were just go two-wheeling. That was a violent hit, a little bit of damage to the right front of the number 21 Grims 140. Again, aggressive on the curbs. He tried getting a little bit time by cutting a little bit, but those turtle curves that they have here are so aggressive to these cars, and it just shot him up. I'm surprised he didn't go into barriers as he now tries to chase down Miller, but man, a costly mistake is going to cost him a good few seconds, and maybe a good few seconds up pit road with that damage.
Yeah, John Kinder, a very solid driver in this series. He's a good driver, but he just drove that corner like a V8 supercar a little too much, got in a little too quickly, and you apex too soon, you run out of room. Obviously, John Kinder ran out of room on the inside of turn 1 and sent that car airborne for a short period of time. So definitely going to learn from that mistake, and hopefully the 21 car is still handling all right for John Kinder now as he's still chasing number 22, who has gotten a little bit more of an advantage off of that number 21. But the Rims 1 machine still trekking on, and with the slightly fresher tires, hopefully he'll be able to hold on to the rear of the number 22 Ford so that number 21 can keep pressuring him, and maybe we'll see something interesting come out of those two. But on to lap 18 they go, and they're still running third and fourth with these two Fords right here.
And this is a big separation as well, because Travis Miller is some 9 seconds behind race leader. 10 and almost 11 seconds behind race leader Justin Winters. These guys have fallen way off of the pace, and Justin Winters has found something that is working for that 88 car, along with the undercut. There's something extra happening right now for this 88 Allen's Body Shop Chevrolet Camaro, and he has really turned up the wick as of late. Brandon Robertson is hard charging, trying to get back up to him, but it's going to take a little while as he puts Joshua Abbey one lap down. In fact, let's check up on the rest of the field here. No, let's go from the back to the front. Josh McKinney, Nick Mills, they do not start this evening, but someone who does is Scott Fritz, and he's gotten his fast repair this evening. He has gotten back onto the racetrack, and he is 18th position, one lap down. David Brackett just ahead of him in the number 38 car. The Yangling 38 not having the greatest of evenings, but he's hanging in there and can still get a lot of spots before this night is over. Someone who is not pitted yet, amazingly, Brian Terry, still out here on this tank of fuel, I think trying to eliminate a pit stop. Very interesting call by him. Wyatt Brackett up ahead of the Brian Terry machine in the number 33. He's 15th position. Daniel Worthington, we talked about him a lot so far this evening. He's running through NASCAR 3 and 4 currently in the number 113 car, and he's had an up and down evening. It was mostly up at the get-go, and since starting in 11th place and getting up to 10th, he's dropped down to 14th position, and it's not looking too great for him because that 113 is surrounded by just about nobody aside from John Kinder. What has happened here around in turns number 11 and 12, that backstretch chicane, and we'll see what happens here to the number 21 car. Then we'll continue on our way from the back to the front. Oh no! This is what you absolutely cannot have happen if you are running a road course. He money shifted this Rims 1 Ford Mustang, and he has blown the motor. This is tragic.
Well, luckily for him in that regard, he still has the drop week that he can use because he's had a fairly good race. He decided to believe Atlanta was his worst out of the others. But, man, a very costly mistake to his championship fight. He came in here at a 12-point gap to the Justin Winters and Travis Miller, and now this is going to really hurt him then on because now he has to have two clutch performances back-to-back as he does have the one fast repair, so they're going to do an Audi R8 Le Mans-style pit stop, get in and out in less than 5 minutes, put a new engine in there with all the oils and all the bells and whistles, and now he's back on the racetrack. They try and establish it, but now about 2 to 3 laps down, that is going to be a very high hill to climb back up on, and with the lack of cautions that we've been seeing in this race because of it being a road course and iRacing cautions not being too loving to come out during races like this, that is going to be a very costly mistake for that 21 machine.
Joshua Abbey's the final car in my portion of the field here, guys. He's in 13th position, and he has also not had a very good night. Qualified 5th spot, but that's the highest he's been, and he has just been dropping back in that 05 car, currently 13th spot. So a great qualifying time, but since then it has not quite worked out for him. Joshua Abbey back to 13th position. Take it away for the next portion here, Noah.
Back up into the 10th position is going to be Brandon Young in the number. Back in the 12th position is going to be the number 83 of Crystal Bourgeois. Up into the 11th position is going to be the 51 of Brandon Young. But up into our top 10 is going to be the 48 of Jack Bauer, who after his early race spin has rallied back up to a top 10 position. 9th, we're going to find Nicholas Nagel. And then rounding out in 8th is the 21 of John Kinder, who is surprisingly in a really good position to get a lucky dog. And then 7th is we're going to find the 188 of Wes Wigan as he rounds it up in 7th.
6th place running right now, just the second car to the green on. Being on the lead lap is the number 28 of Adam Lancaster, and he was last time's winner at Talladega. The number 28 Ford Mustang, you see him trekking on right behind the guy who's still holding on to 5th place. That is Ed Osborne, having an awesome day in the Miller High Life Ford. The 555 machine's been in the top 5, running solidly throughout the course of this one. Definitely, you can tell Ed Osborne put some focus and effort into putting a good setup on that car and being smooth and tactical with the event today. So he's running in 5th position. 4th place, the snap-on number 15 Ford Mustang. That's Matt Grenier. He's come up through the field a little bit. You see, he started in 7th. He's currently in the highest position he's been running in all day. But from the little ticker on your screen, you can tell he's had a pretty solid, consistent race so far. Top 3 is started off with 3rd place and Travis Miller, the BRP. Oh, that's Jack Bauer sideways on the inside as Travis Miller, your 3rd place driver, went past him. So the Ally number 48 had another issue here. We're going to get a replay of him coming down the backstretch through the chicane on said backstretch. The Ally 48 coming out, and what did he do here? Oh, he just spun the tires. So he's just trying to get back up to speed from that slower portion of the track and lost traction in the rear. Car just caught it and went to the left, and he couldn't catch it. Couldn't catch the slide and keep himself pointed straight. Spins out, hit the wall a little bit. Jack Bauer's going to keep trucking on, though, in the Ally number 48. So we'll jump back up to Travis Miller, and Travis has been having an up-and-down day. We saw him get run into while he was leading the race with the Gassens on the side of that number 22 machine. He got run into while he was leading the race, so that put him back a little bit. But he's still moving forward, and we've talked about Travis Miller being one of the more adverse drivers that we've seen and the things he's capable of doing with his patience and wits. So that number 22, we'll just keep watching, see what he does. 2nd place right now, Brandon Robertson has been running very smoothly today. You can see he started 1st. He's 2nd right now, and his highest position was 1st place as well. He's led 7 laps in your race today. The Tide number 2 has been consistent, and we know he's an aggressive driver, but we're seeing that he's also a strategic driver, and that number 2 machine staying up front. Leading the way in the number 88, the Allen's Body Shop car with obviously the pink on it to celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Justin Winters, one of the 2 drivers tied for the championship lead, and with the way that he's led laps now, so he's going to get those bonus points, and he's also leading the way if the race were to end at this exact moment in time. He would adopt the championship lead, which obviously he'd like to do, but hey, we still got to run the whole race out. So the number 88 machine leading the way right now. Justin Winters has Brandon Robertson just in his mirrors, but that is from the rear to the front how we're running lap 23 of 55 here at the Roval.
I like that. Justin's got him just in his mirrors, but
I was about to say something about that.
that was a pretty good one. That was pretty slick there, Joe. Justin Winters does continue to lead, but this is suddenly a battle for the top spot. Only 6 cars left on the lead lap, and they are closing in slowly but surely on even 6th position. Everybody else 1 lap down, including John Kinder. He would have made it 7 if he had not had that mistake, money shifting the car down the backstretch where these guys are going now. It's an interesting art that you've got to keep up with here, downshifting one of these big heavy stock cars, because you're using that almost as a little bit of engine braking. You want to slow the motor down so that you can slow the rear axle, slow the rest of the car down, because the rear axle is what supplies the power to the car. Anyway. You kind of use those downshifts to help you slow down a little bit, but you've got to be so careful about it because you can only do it to a certain extent, or that's exactly what happens. You start damaging the motor, and it's a lot more difficult, I think, in real life as far as downshifting than here in iRacing. You have a lot more allowances, less things that can go wrong. But eventually, you do destroy that power plant, and that's what John Kinder did. And now we have a potential battle for this race lead because Brandon Robertson is turning up the wick. He's all over Justin Winters right now, laying this pressure on thick. And these guys are going to have to pit here soon. If you follow the trend of about 13 to 15 laps, they'll be pitting in about 2 laps time to open that pit window up. It really all depends for Justin Winters. I think he's probably got 3 laps before he comes in. But it's interesting that they're going to come in around that time because that's when we're going to give out $10 to our race leader, and it looks like it just might be Brandon Robertson if he's going to go by the number 88 car of Justin Winters for the race lead. So Brandon Robertson up to P1. Again, that halfway leader award handed out by Rims 1 from Mooresville, North Carolina, rather local here to Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, our hard charger of the evening, the guy who needs a beer, also gets $10 from Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville, North Carolina. A couple of great places to go. In fact, before this race, I was talking to a buddy of mine who was actually headed down to Mooresville to go to the beer lab, and wow, Brandon Robertson is the first to come in, undercutting the undercutter.
Very interesting move by the number 2. Another interesting move. He is still not used his fabric repair, so he still has a mulligan in his book. So you see the nose damage. He's going to try and deal with that. Another interesting tidbit that I realized is also John Kinder, as the 33 of Wyatt Brackett goes around in turn number 1. It looks like he is going to get off the racetrack. He came right around for John Kinder, who, here's the interesting thing about him. Even though he is a lap down, he has rebounded all the way up to 7th just because of how many cars have gone a lap down. He almost took out Justin Winters in that incident. So that would have been a very costly mistake. Then just noses it into the pit wall and gets off the track. He's going to leave the server. So that is our first DNF of the race. But still, John Kinder, all the way up to 7th. So I was talking about this might possibly be a drop week for him. Right now, just because of how many cars are lapped down, it's looking to be a pretty solid run for him for this points championship. Not enough to really close it down, but he's not going to lose that much compared to what I thought he would.
Yeah, so he didn't lose too much there, but as we're going to continue with the pit stop cycle, we'll see how everything turns out with that. So John Kinder might be able to pull something together here, and so we don't think he's probably not going to see a lucky dog for at least for a little while. As there goes Justin Winters, the race leader, into pit lane. So the 88 machine is going to relinquish it so long as the guys behind him will not be pitting, or at least if Brandon Robertson doesn't get back up to undercut him. But Brandon Robertson was right on his tail before that happened. We're expecting the number 2 machine to get back out in front of the number 88, but he's coming down pit lane. Make sure you don't miss that box, Justin. I don't want to give him the commentator curse, and he does not make me look like a fool, so that's really nice to see. But, yeah, Brandon Robertson's going to be catching up here. Travis Miller going to be doing the same. And, yeah, coming down pit road, you see the number 22 machine right here.
And not only – sorry, I was jumping in on you, Andrew, but not only is Robertson going to retake the lead, he's going to take it by a good margin. He really performed an undercut well in the number 2 Toyota.
Yeah, Robertson out to a hefty lead right now. It's tough to say exactly how much it's going to be, but you can see it visually. It's going to be a couple of seconds, maybe about a second and a half, somewhere in there. No, it is about 2.5 seconds as they run through the scoring loops finally and come back up on our timing and scoring. The deficit should be there once they complete this lap, but it's a hefty gap between first and second right now, and with the 2 car looking better than Justin Winters, I think that's everything Brandon Robertson needed to start putting a gap here on the number 88 car. I think he would have cycled, well, he did cycle out to where he was going to be in the race lead regardless, but just barely. Now, he will definitely, I think, be our race leader at halfway, so he should get that halfway leader $10 award from Rims 1 and Mooresville, North Carolina. And, of course, if you want to support the Bluegrass Iracing Series, just like Rims 1 and the Ghostface Brewing Company, you can contact the Bluegrass Iracing Series on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever suits you, and you can talk to them about those kinds of opportunities. You can also email me directly, actually, at Andrew at PitStopTV.com, and I'll at least get you in contact with the series so that you can work on that with them. On to lap 27 now of 55, and this is right where we're going to dictate that leader at halfway, because at the completion of this lap, we'll be just past halfway. Some more pit stops going on throughout the field. Actually, only the top 4 have come in until now. It looks like Nicholas Noggle is the next one down pit lane.
Ed Osborne, number 555, still on the racetrack. He will assume the fourth place position. A really good run for him. He's had an incredibly strong night in that Miller High Life Ford. And that's exactly the kind of night he's having. He's living a high life right now as he tries to chase down Grenier there for the fourth spot, so they're not too far away. Miller still holds on to the third position. He's 15 seconds away from Robertson, who makes his way through oval turns 1 and 2 onto the backstretch. Winner's still trying to chase him down there. So even though he almost had the halfway lead going for him, thanks to the undercut, it's going to go now to the number 2 of Robertson unless a major mess up happens. But this has been a very interesting race. It's been a very quick race too because of the lack of cautions. It's running like kind of like a normal endurance race where it's just kind of now we're in the middle stages of the race where people are just kind of running their lines. But as soon as we see a fight, just like in any other Bluegrass Iracing Series, it is one to watch and one to never forget because these guys have been able to put on shows lap after lap after lap, which is exactly what we're expecting here in the next few laps when these two catch up to each other.
Yeah, and as you were saying, so Noah, Brandon Robertson managed to get past the line, so he's going to adopt that $10 leading halfway prize for the number 2 team. And now Justin Winters has caught up. He hit the curves a little bit, went a little bit deep into turn 4 there to try to gain some time on the number 2. And with the fresher tires from the fact that Brandon Robertson got up front through an undercut maneuver on the pit lane, the 88 is going to have slightly fresher and therefore slightly faster tires than the number 2 machine. Justin Winters, you saw him run a really nice line coming back out onto the banked corners 9 and 10, also known as Speedway's turn 1 and 2. Brandon Robertson gaining a little bit of time down the back stretch here and now into the braking zone. Justin Winters gains a whole bunch of time, actually really got it up there onto the rear bumper of the Tide Toyota. So Justin Winters going in a little deep, trying to make up his time in the braking zones on that number 2 machine. But we know that John Kinder was pushing it a little hard in the 21, and it ended up biting him with the engine getting blown up from his money shift and just driving that car a little too hard into the braking zone. So we'll have to make sure Justin Winters doesn't do the same thing. Sliding out of turn number 17 that time, trying to run a smooth line through the first corner, looks pretty good, and actually might have gained a small amount of time on Brandon Robertson here as we also go through turn 2. Kept it a little tight on corner exit. Brandon Robertson's going to have to deal with that is David Brackett in the number 38, the Yingling machine, getting out of the way of the 2 leaders. So just being respectful and letting these 2 guys run their race. He's just trying to trudge through and get whatever points he can get out of the event today, as he's not having the best day in the world in that number 38 machine. Still looking good though. The Yingling car always nice to see it.
It's a battle for P1. I didn't think Winters was going to have it in him, but he has taken advantage of these tires. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Whoever pits first is going to lead at first, but then start dropping, and whoever pits last is going to catch up to whoever undercuts. So the overcut really looking like it might work out for the race lead, at least when it comes down to it. Oh, Justin Winters playing very, very dangerously with those sausage curves in the chicane. That's impressive that he can straddle that sausage curve. I'm sorry, that probably didn't sound right, but he can straddle those curves. There we go. So well without taking out the oil pan. I saw an iRacing posted on Facebook where somebody was complaining about clipping an edge of pavement and knocking out their oil pan and losing oil pressure, blowing their motor. And the same thing can happen here in these NASCAR stock cars. It's really easy to get up, ride that curb, and knock an oil pan out. I mean, it doesn't actually happen, but it simulates that damage to the engine. And suddenly you're going to drop oil pressure. Oil temp is going to rise because it's measuring the temperature of the oil in the engine. And if there's no oil in there, it's just going to start rising. So you've really got to be careful about that, hitting those curbs and not damaging suspension or damaging the motor. It was so much worse with that older chicane. It's not quite as bad now with that new backstretch chicane, Noah, but it's still tough. Before we go any further, though, we're through a little more than halfway of this race. We still haven't talked about our great partners. Go ahead and tell us about some of them.
Starting off on the list, we have Tucson Soundar. Your picture, your music. You provide the image you want, and we will custom create a beautiful framed, high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. The Soundart, you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundart.com for additional info. Next up, we have the Brp Iracing Series. The Brp Iracing Series is a series run and owned by Northeastern Big Block modified drivers, crew guys, and fans. If you're looking to get into dirt racing or already are, this league is for you. BRP is a fixed league that runs 360 winged sprint cars and pro late models. The Brp Iracing Series will be adding the big block mods to their series lineup upon the release to the iRacing.com service. You can find BRP on their Facebook page, the Brp Iracing Series, which we will be covering next season with this 360 sprint car. So be sure to keep on our social medias to see all the new updates for when we get to start with those guys in the next coming weeks. And then we're going to hand it off to Joe, who's going to tell you about our next sponsor at Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine.
Absolutely. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. At Permanent Makeup and Cryo, Ashley Bollier, the owner, is certified in micropigmentation, and she provides professional, safe, and personalized services for all of your needs. You can contact Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com or call and text them at their number 207-358-8683. If you're looking for the best solutions for your permanent makeup concerns, give Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine a call today and book a consultation. If you visit their Facebook page, Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, you can enter one of their monthly giveaways and enter today because who knows, you might just win. We also have to make a shout out to our parent company, Whiplash Media, specializing in various sim racing resources, including paid schemes, stream overlays, iRacing camera packs, and more. Whiplash Media is also working on providing a presence in the real racing world with services such as photography, social media management, and public relations. Go to www.whiplash-media.com for more information.
And we've been watching this battle on our screen while you guys killed it right there. Let's get a round of applause. But we've been watching this battle between these top two, and Justin Winters was so close. You saw it on your screen. He was ever so close to getting a chance at that race lead and made a bit of a mistake there and has since dropped away from Brandon Robertson. So we'll recap through some of the rest of the field. Most of these battles have kind of spread apart. It's most of these guys just trying to turn laps and set themselves up for the end of the race because pit stops will be starting again before you know it. Jack Bauer is in 10th spot, and he's trying to fight up to Brandon Young for 9th. It's a 1.2 second gap, then 18 seconds from Young up to Wiggin, so everything very, very spread out. Once you get north of West Wiggin, though, for 7th position, that's John Kinder. It's actually West Wiggins passing a lap car. That's Brian Terry in the Tequila Patron, number 13, as they get very close for the braking zone into turn 11 and 12. That backstretch chicane. LaBourgeois is there as well, but he's 2 laps down, and Brian Terry is actually 3 laps down. So none of this for position. There isn't a single battle for position anywhere on the racetrack aside for 10th spot while trying to fight for 9th and the race lead, and even that has spread itself out 1.5 seconds apart for those top two.
Yeah, those two really on each other, fighting back there for the 9th position. Brandon Young, who had a very up and down day at Talladega, ended up coming out with the top 3. Is now Bauer diving all the way down to the apron. I don't know if he is making a late stage pit stop, but that is a very odd time to making your way down pit road. But that's going to separate the fight from those two. They're both a lap down. Currently, Adam Lancaster holds on to the lookout spot, the first car lap down, with John Kinder not too far behind him. So again, John Kinder, a very, very great comeback ever since the money shift he pulled on the backstretch chicane. But still, right now, about the closest fight we're fighting on the racetrack is that 2-second gap fight between Justin Winters and Brandon Robertson as they make their way back towards 15, 16, and 17. As now we're getting close to eyeing the beginning of the 3rd round of pit stops as they just still work their way through the field, as we only have 5 cars in a lead lap.
Yeah, they've definitely separated out a lot. The whole field, that is, with Brandon Robertson up front, only a second ahead of Justin Winters, but then obviously we dropped back over 20 seconds to 3rd position. And yeah, like you said, we've got a lot of cars a lap down, a couple cars 2 laps down. We've even got Brian Terry back there 3 laps down. So we've got the field spread out pretty good, and that's the kind of thing we were expecting out of the technical race we've got under our seats for tonight's event at PitStop TV. But you can see Brandon Robertson out the front of the number 88 machine, so he's definitely trying to reel in the number 2 machine as we continue racing lap 34 here at the Roval. This is the type of event that getting a win would be something special. It's the only road course event of the season. It is the Roval. There is nothing quite like running a race at the Roval. There's nothing quite like winning a race at the Roval. Right now, Brandon Robertson showing he's got what it takes. He's strutting his stuff up front, showing he could be your winner tonight. Justin Winter staying on his tail as well, proving that the Allen's Body Shop number 88 is also a strong competitor tonight, as we see Ed Osborne getting lapped for the very first time in tonight's event. So he made it more than halfway through the race before he had to relinquish the racing line to, as, it was a little squirrely there for Justin Winters trying to get past Ed Osborne, who was letting him through. But interesting stuff. So Jack Bauer missed that final chicane here again, and so Jack Bauer had to check up a little bit, give back the time to the Iracing scoring pylon, and just kind of take what he can get. He's had an interesting evening. He's had a couple miscues and mistakes, getting sideways a few times. He actually, on his last pit stop, missed his pit box, which is something we have talked about before here in the Bluegrass Iracing Series, something you don't want to do, and he did make that mistake tonight. So you see Ed Osborne trying to hold on to the tail of Justin Winters. He locked up the brakes a little bit going down the inside of Nick Noggle, and you see it's going to bite him in the tail because he can't quite get past that 08 Toyota yet. So the leaders got through okay, and that's going to make it nice for us as spectators, but surely maybe a little frustration for Ed Osborne, or maybe just a little patience. He's running a pretty good race, though. I'd be pretty satisfied with this one if I were him.
It's worth mentioning, meanwhile, that until just the last few laps, only the top three and John Kinder pretty much had come in for their second stop. All of these other guys running very late into the race. I mean, in fact, for example, Joshua Abbey's just now coming down the pit lane for his second stop on the afternoon. So this is very interesting. These guys are trying to cut out a pit stop, it looks like, going to the full distance of the fuel as opposed to the full distance of the tires. I think that's the big difference there, is our leader's been going to the distance of the tires as opposed to the fuel. So the fuel tank, I guess, can go much further, or they're trying to save, which is actually rather easy to do on these road courses and these NASCAR stock cars. While you don't have quite as many gears that you can shift up to and try and save fuel that way, you can still short shift. You can run in a gear higher through some corners. And I know a lot of people say on iRacing it only comes down to throttle position, but I truly believe, because I've done it and other people have done it, I truly believe you can short shift, you can do stuff with the gears to save yourself some fuel as well, but also lifting earlier, coasting into the corner, and being easier on the throttle input is going to help you as well. So there's so many different ways that you can save fuel here on iRacing, just like in real life, and that can help you lengthen a fuel run, obviously, and it can really pay dividends. A battle on the racetrack, though, between two drivers who have now pitted at the same time, actually. Ed Osborne, Adam Lancaster, these guys fighting for the 5th position, and Lancaster's actually getting rather close.
Another person is getting rather close to the 21 to Kinder. Lancaster's teammate still back there in the 7th position. As they exit the chicane, Kinder enters the chicane. So again, he's really closing in on a really good comeback. But right now, Robertson really holding on to it. And with the lap car of now Matt Grenier being put a lap down, that now puts it, only the top 3 are on the lead lap, which just tells you how much of another class these guys are in. Because to give you an idea, Travis Miller's qualifying time was at 18.703. Matt Grenier's qualifying time was a 20.8. That is almost 2 seconds of a gap, which just tells you how much quicker those top 3 are. So it really shows you the well balance of how these top 3 run in compared to the rest. John Kinder also on the list because obviously of what we already know of the engine issues puts him back there, but still it's just incredible to think about how fast these guys really are. Because they are the only people on the lead lap, as John Kinder still just trying to catch up to Adam Lancaster right now. Robertson and Winters, again, closing it down to maybe having another great fight for this race lead as we are now approaching 15 to go.
Yeah, and we're getting down to the closing stages, so these drivers are definitely going to start being a little more aggressive than we saw them in the middle stages. You saw that is what Adam Lancaster is doing. He got into the wall in between turns 7 and 8 on the right side of that car. A small amount of damage on the 28 machine, but hopefully he'll keep it moving. Hopefully nothing, no tire rubs, no nothing to impede him from getting that car further up and trying to challenge Ed Osborne for a top 5 in today's race. But yeah, we're coming down to about 15 laps to go here shortly, so we're going to be within, soon enough, we'll be within a 1 stop to the finish time range, and it'll be interesting to see who comes in with more like 15 to 14 laps to go, or who's going to push a little. Oh, look at Adam Lancaster, locked him up big time coming through turn number 1, just barely missed the wall or maybe skimmed it a little bit coming through there. So the number 28 machine definitely pushing hard, and it's not really paying off, putting flat spots on the tires and rubbing the sides off of that machine.
Well, and he hit the wall pretty hard a lap ago. The right side of that car now very dented up. The Ghostface Brewing Company a bit dented up on the side of that number 28 Ford Mustang. It was right up here, actually, exiting turn 7, going into turn 8. He got it right there. And it's a common place to do it as well, because if you just overdrive turn 7 a tiny, tiny bit and push up on exit, that's exactly what happens. And it's a concrete wall. There's no safety barrier right there, which means you're going to hit it hard, and you're going to do a lot of damage to your race car when you do. So Adam Lancaster with some new damage. Meanwhile, we have another battle for the race lead. These guys have neared each other once more, and the pit window has almost opened up for these two. They've got to run a couple more extra laps before it really opens up, and I think it's beneficial for them to pit. I think it's a little bit too early right now, and then have pretty used up tires here at the end. It's interesting that these drivers further back through the field are staying out so much longer, playing the longer game and trying to take a pit stop out. It's a viable strategy, and I think it's going to gain them some time here, because some of these guys have already pitted for their final time. Our leaders will pit 3 times, and I see some drivers back here who are playing the long con pretty much, have only pitted twice. So as long as they stick to that strategy, it might work out for them. But they've really got to stick to it, and they've got to be careful with these tires, not to run them too hard, but also to run them just enough.
It's kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, too hard, too soft, and just right. And that's exactly what you need to do at a road course like this. But now the big question as we approach that last green flag pit stop, we've seen both of these drivers perform and how well the undercut works. But now it's the question, who's going to pit first? Because we're talking about 4 more laps or so before that window opens to make it to the end. And so Brian Terry going to block not really block, but impede the 88 just because of where he was on the racetrack when he came to lap him again. As now Robertson with a mistake entering the back chicane. That's going to allow winners. He's going to take the right side, go the long way around, going to try and use all the momentum. If he stays there, he's going to have the preferred entry into turn 16, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Oh, and now Robertson is going to be the one to perform the undercuts. Now he has to try and stretch it out 2 more laps to make it to the finish, and now all eyes are going to be on winner to see when he opts to pit.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting strategy called by Brandon Robertson right there. You see, when he comes out of the pits, he's going to be faster than the rest of the guys out there who've got older tires. But at the same time, when we get towards the ending of this one, at the 15-lap mark from where we are, about 15 laps to go here on lap 40, that number 2 machine is going to be all used up. Whereas if Justin Winter stays out for maybe 2 laps, let's say if he stays out even 2 laps more, he'll be much quicker throughout, not only when he returns to the racing surface post pit stop, but also at the ending of the race, he'll have a lot more underneath the hood of that machine and on the axles of that car to push him forward past number 2. Travis Miller, who's been running in 3rd place throughout the majority of the late stages of this race, is coming into pit lane, and he pulls into box number 3 with the number 22 BRP Gaston's Ford Mustang. So Travis Miller has been having a pretty solid day and running in 3rd place. His main competitor, and it's hard to say main because we've got so many drivers who are competing for the championship still, but his main competitor, the person he was tied with in points as he comes out of the pit lane, is leading the way and has been doing so for a long period of this race, has been in front of him. It's easy to see Justin Winters as he's going to commit, and here comes the number 88 to pit lane, and he's got to get that car slowed down, which he does so in just the nick of time for the Allen's Body Shop car. So Travis Miller are going to be watching and going to be losing maybe some points today if the race were to end in the same order that it is right now. But certainly 15 laps to go. That's plenty of time for something interesting to happen.
We have a few cars here who are kind of jumbled up. Matt Grenier, Ed Osborne, Adam Lancaster, all within just a second and a half or so of one another. I think it's 3 total seconds between the 3. But, yeah, they're kind of all in a situation where if one of them makes a mistake, the other will be there to pounce on it. Grenier leading the group as Scott Fritz is missing the nose of his car once more. Big issues there for the 100 car. Lancaster narrowly gets by, and actually suddenly Lancaster's in a spot to try and get by Ed Osborne. This could be a great battle for 5th spot on the racetrack. As a bit of a lockup there for Ed Osborne as well, coming through turn 6. I don't think that's very uncommon either, to just lock up that inside tire just a bit. Brandon Robertson has retaken the race lead as he has passed Justin Winters in the pit lane. You see the gap there between those two drivers, about 2.93 seconds. So I think that's exactly why Brandon Robertson wanted to perform that undercut once more, because he's got this lead for so long and he's just got to defend here come the end. And it's an interesting strategy too, Noah, because you're giving Justin Winters, I think, the upper hand. As long as he can catch that 2-car once again, which he just did, he can make a bunch of defensive moves, and you saw there at the end, he was faster. It's going to be the same way here in a moment. And in fact, there's Justin Winters again, reeling right back into this 2-car.
Yeah, but the thing you got to keep in mind, though, is because of the fact that Robertson's in the lead, he controls the pace of the race. As long as he has the preferred line going to the corner, there's not really much Winters can do to get around him, and that's just because of how these tracks are. If you can protect that preferred lane going to each corner, then basically Winters just has to play the waiting game unless he wants to abuse those tires to make a pass happen. Right now, all Robertson needs to do is just mind his P's and Q's, take it to the finish. He might have it here, but if he makes one fatal mistake, that's going to allow Winters to get the run on him to make the pass. And the only way I can really see Winters having a shot at the pass is if he does what we see a lot of drivers at IMSA do at Daytona. When you come back up onto the banking after exiting an oval, if you get that right momentum, you can gain about 3 or 4 tenths on the car ahead of you just on exit of the corner. So this is a very apex corner that you need to make. And if he does it, then he's going to have a really good chance of flying around him, but he's not going to do it this time by.
Yeah, but keep in mind, Justin Winters was over 2 seconds behind, and now he's just under a half second in just a lap's time. He's caught up significantly to the number 2 machine, and you see in the braking zone again, he's actually just about, not quite, but just about touching bumpers with the number 2 machine. So definitely Brandon Robertson has lost all of the time that he wanted to get in between himself and the number 88 car with that undercut pit stop strategy. So we've still got over 12 laps to go here for these two guys as they're going to have to maneuver some lap traffic. Here you see Scott Fritz being very respectful of that and getting out of their way. Same with Jack Bauer in the number 48 machine, but the time that he had built up from that undercut, definitely all gone now. Brandon Robertson is going to have to be driving defensively, and Justin Winters knows if he puts some pressure on that 2-car, he might force an error. He might have an easy line that he can make a pass on the number 2. As you see at the top of your screen, purple lap time for John Kinder, who's definitely going to be pushing that machine hard. He's running in 5th position now, so he's broken back into the top 5 for the moment with Grenier just in front of him. And we saw about a lap ago, the number 15 had a little bit of a miscue in between turns 4 and 5 on that short straightaway. So here is Justin Winters all over the tail end of the number 2 car. He looks to the top side. He ran out of the corner really nice. He used up all the track he could to try to keep his momentum in that car and stay on the tail of the number 2. Getting a little bit of a draft down the backstretch, and this is where we see the 88 catch up significantly, is in the braking zone. Not as much this time, but definitely still showing his stuff. The number 88 of Justin Winters trying to figure out what he's got to do to get around the number 2 car, which we're going to come to the line. This time we'll have 11 laps to go.
Justin Winters all over Brandon Robertson. This is what I was afraid of for Robertson, because now Winters can kind of save his stuff a little bit as he gets right to the back end of Brandon Robertson. He can kind of save his stuff because he's already within range of this 2-car. And even if he loses a little bit of time in the infield, he's going to have these big, long oval sections through NASCAR 1 and 2 and NASCAR 3 and 4 to kind of sit in the draft of the 2-car and help him out a little bit. It's not going to be a huge difference, but it certainly does matter here at Charlotte Motor Speedway's Roval. And that's just going to help him out. Just enough to stay within range of this 2-car, even if he starts saving his tires a little bit. Meanwhile, Brandon Robertson, you say, Noah, that he can control the pace of this race, but if that pace is too slow, the idiot's just going to go right on by. So he's going to be really careful here. He's got to run his tail off, but also save a little bit here for the end, because eventually this 88 car is going to put a good move on him, I think, and try and go for his 2nd race win on the season.
And you're seeing it right there, blocking all the way to the bottom to cut the run off of the 88 because he knows he can't get it done on the top side. They're going to run it down to that chicane once more, hard on the brakes. We've seen Winters be really well on entry, but just can't get on exit. That's where Robertson gets him, as now they exit back towards oval 3 and 4. He's going to be able to pull a little bit of a lead, but now Winters is going to try and maybe set it up for a last 15, 16, 17 turn, going to maybe dive it in deep on the brakes. Nope, it looks like he's just going to stay in line and try it once more. It really seems the only chance that Winters has of getting around him, unless he wants to start putting a bumper on him, which still seems too early. We're not yet at 10 to go. But what he needs to wait on is for a right move to get it done. The only thing I think he's going to do it is if he gets that run through turns 1 and 2 to get around him.
Yeah, you look at turn 2, and actually it's Justin Winters. See, he goes a little wide out of turn 3 here. He maybe had a little bit of a run and couldn't quite do anything with it, but he seems like turn 2 is where the 88 car is significantly quicker than the 2 machine. So you saw him all over the tail end of Brandon Robertson through turn 2, and we've seen it happen a couple times here throughout the last few laps. But Justin Winters trying to push that car in front of him into either using up those tires quicker or making some sort of mistake. You saw Justin didn't quite get through that corner very well, turn 8. We're riding on the gyro cam now. You can see the true banking of the corner in reference to the flat surface of our lovely planet Earth. Brandon Robertson got a little gap down the backstretch and down into the chicane again. You see Justin Winters all over the tail end of him again. So this game's going to be playing out, and I don't know if Justin's going to be staying patient or if he's going to try to make a move here and catch Robertson off guard, because we've caught a little bit of a cycle here where the 2 car can get out in front on the straightaways and pull a little bit of a lead, but then Justin Winters just reels him right back in, as you see through turns 16 and 17. He's done so once again. They complete the lap. 9 laps to go this time, and through turn 1 we'll see what Justin Winters can do with some momentum off the corner, and this is the one. Justin Winters through turn 2 has so much more momentum than the 2 machine. This time he looked like he was a little conservative through the corner. Through 3 and 4 they go again, trying to stay smooth as Robertson got caught up to again, but the speed down the little straightaway here, Brandon Robertson slowly edging it forward.
And viewers, in case you're wondering why we focus so much on this lead battle, it's because this is the only battle on the racetrack. Looking through everybody else's delta, everything is split up quite a bit. I mean, it's very spread out here at the Roval. Only 20 cars means there's still a bit of racetrack to be left open. This time, Justin Winters gets down to the bottom side of Brandon Robertson. This is so important because finally he can run the bottom side of the oval and get a run into the backstretch chicane side by side for the race lead. Just inside of 10 laps to go, Justin makes the move for the race lead, and Robertson is going to fall to second, much like his car number, and that, I think, might be one of the nails in the coffin. There's a few more, in fact 9 more to go for Robertson to lose this race, but man, I just don't know how you can beat out the better tires in the 88 car.
With 10 laps to go, the gloves now come off here in Charlotte, South Carolina, as now Robertson on the attack to try and catch up to Justin Winters. Something else to keep in mind, John Kinder, the amazing comeback that he's able to pull off. He's in 4th where he was when he had the engine failure. So now he is back in the same points. He's not going to lose that much, so he doesn't have to use as a drop week, so props to him. But now, 9 laps to go, and we're going to see a Class A fight between Justin Winters and Brandon Robertson for the race lead. Joshua Abbey back down on pit road to make his final pit stop, but still, the fight is on as they make their way 2 lap cars of 83 of Chris LeBourgeois and 113 of Daniel Worthington. That might put a hinder on that fight, but again, the only way you can really see a fight breaking out on these two and maybe a pass happening is if Nicholas Knuckle goes around behind him exiting the corner, is through those corners of turns 9 and 10. That's the only way you're going to be able to make a run fast enough to pass them. So Robertson's still going to hold on behind right now. Justin Winters is looking to finally capture his, I believe, the 3rd win of the season after a very long dry spell since his mistake at Pocono.
Yeah, and you see on your screen here the replay of Nicholas Noggle just getting it a little bit messed up and getting a little squirrely through turn 8, a little cattywampus into the corner, if you will, with the 08 Toyota. But regains control, nothing too major for him, and he's going to trek on, as is the leader of this race, Justin Winters. Brandon Robertson still in his mirrors. We get past Daniel Worthington, the lapped car, number 113, and we come through into 15, 16, 17, the nice little chicane here on the front stretch of Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we come past, and we're going to have 7 laps to go here at the stripe. You'll see your ticker update here shortly. And the number 88 machine is still leading the way through 1 and through 2 now, which is where we had said the 88 was stronger than the 2 car. And through 3, oh no, they got a little wide. They both go a little wide there, actually. Justin Winters got really lucky because he messed up through turn 3 a little bit and went a little high into that paint that's flatter surface. And we know that that's going to be a death sentence for your turns 3 and 4 in terms of timing and in terms of hitting your apexes correctly. Fortunately for Justin Winters, Brandon Robertson was so focused on the bumper of the number 88 machine, he didn't realize that the 88 was going wide through that corner and didn't adjust accordingly to make his own marks. And that's the kind of thing you can see out of drivers who are chasing down cars in front of them like this, is that they get so focused on the car in front, they do the same things, they follow the same lines. And Justin Winters, who went a little wide, very fortunate that Brandon Robertson didn't quite take advantage of that like he could have. You saw Robertson through turn 12 there. He tried to gain some time by cutting the corner a little quicker, and he did gain a little bit in the middle of the chicane. But once they came out, Justin Winters had the opportunity to get on the throttle a little bit quicker than the number 2 car, and that kept him out front and gave him a little bit of a nice lead as they come past the stripe again here.
And that might go down as one of the missed opportunities for Brandon Robertson to win this race, because he could have gotten by that number 88 right there in 3 and 4, maybe hung on, because these tires at this point, they're both worn out. Both have the tires in these race cars, so they're both hanging on for dear life right now. These fixed setups are, you see, a perfect example of what I was going to say is David Brackett goes around out of turn 4. They are very loose, especially on throttle, of course, so they're actually kind of tight off throttle, pretty loose on throttle, so it's very tough for these cars to get around this place, and it creates a very challenging landscape once these tires are worn out. So again, a big missed opportunity there for Brandon Robertson. So important to try and get by when you have a mistake made, but at the same time, you mentioned it, Joe, when they're chasing somebody down, they're looking at the bumper of that race car more often than not. Of course, driving coaches, as a bit of a lockup there for Winters. Driving coaches will tell you to keep your eyes up the racetrack. I hear Dave Levine in my head every time I'm racing on a road course. Keep your eyes up the racetrack. Eyes up the racetrack. Michael Melvin has told me this too. But when you are following somebody, when you are racing somebody, the goal is to beat them, right? The goal isn't to beat the racetrack, because unless you're at the Beast of the Southeast or the Lady in Black, usually the racetrack isn't going to beat you, right? I guess Miles the Monster probably could. But you're usually trying to beat the car in front of you, not the racetrack. So your brain just starts focusing on that car in front. You want to beat that car in front. And when that car in front goes deep into turn 3, like you just saw, well, you end up following them because you're using him as your brake marker. So when you see the front end of that car dip down, that's when you get on the brakes usually. It's something about trying to train your eyes to stay up the road instead of on the back end of the car in front.
Absolutely. As now we get ready to approach 5 to go. The fight for the lead's still on. He's looking on board of that tied Toyota as they make their way down through the dip towards the oval. Not going to be able to get anything this time just because of how far back he is. And now we go back live as they exit back onto the ovals turn 3 and 4. You see they got a 0.8 tenth of a second as now they make their way towards 15, 16, and 17. Now coming the 5 to go. Really late on the brakes as the number 2. He's going to try and close down the gap. Now coming back to the start-finish line as the race is still on for the race lead and the win of this race, as right now it's just slipping further and further away as Justin Winters has been unstoppable. He's going to get into the logs in the corner, and that's really going to hurt him.
Wow, that was a interesting turn of events there. You saw Justin Winters actually got in a little bit too far, and he didn't quite hit his apex, but then Brandon Robertson tried to make up time by running the low line, except he hit those sausage curbs, and we know that we cannot be hitting those curbs. They do it a lot in V8 supercars, and every time we see it on screen, I always think about my boy Scotty McLaughlin out there winning every race in the V8 Supercars Championship. But yeah, Brandon Robertson just dug it in a little too deep in turn 1 and then slid up high, hit the wall in between 1 and 2, and that's going to hinder his performance here with the ending 5 laps of this race.
Inside of 5 to go now, and this race is looking pretty blown apart for these top 2. I mean, Brandon Robertson was so good for so long, but those couple of mistakes, and again, that missed opportunity in turn 3 really going to hold him back. He's still got a great chance, but that chance is getting slimmer and slimmer as time goes on. We're coming to 4 laps to go, only about 10 miles or so. No, I think it's about 9 miles actually, a little over 2.25 per lap. Yes, yeah, about 9 miles to go for these drivers, and he's got to make up over a second, and that's going to be tough. It doesn't matter where you are, Martinsville, Talladega, from the shortest to the longest, it doesn't matter, because that is a lot of time to make up when that driver ahead of you is driving equally as fast, especially once you start dinging up the right side of that car, like Robertson just did. It's going to take a lot of lap traffic, which thankfully he has up ahead, to make up a lot of time here.
Yeah, he has 3 cars up ahead of him. That is a very tough position to be in for Justin Winters. You got Scott Fritz, and then there's a fight going on between Brandon Young, who lets them by, and now the only one left is Joshua Abbey in number 05 as he makes his way up to turn number 7. Oh, but no man's land now. He's like, see, you wonder why I call it dead man's curve? Look at Joshua Abbey. He went right off that cliff, and he is going to be stuck there. He lost a lot of time, falls back about 3 positions, even though Scott Fritz is quite a ways back in the running order. But look how much time he lost in comparison. You see, he come in there, he overcooks the corner, jumping the curb. He's trying hard as he can, and then once you fall off the cliff, you're on for the ride as he loses a bunch of time. As now Justin Winters holds on, still your race leader, looking at about over a second. Brandon Young hops the turtle curb a little bit, as now exiting back into the oval. As now we are closing in on the final 3 laps of this race.
Yeah, Joshua Abbey, you saw his replay there getting a little bit overcooked into that corner. You see him coming through again, and he's going to try to not make that mistake again. But yeah, we're coming to 3 laps to go here. Justin Winters holding on pretty strong. Brandon Robertson, you saw it on screen. He's pushing hard in that number 2 car, and we could expect such, although Justin Winters did pit a little bit later than the number 2 machine. He's still only about a lap further into his tires, and at this point in the run, we're getting into the late stages of it, starts to be a little bit less of a factor. Brandon Robertson's been doing an excellent job holding on to that machine. He's riding now, watching with the number 48 Ally Chevrolet, that is Jack Bauer, and he's holding on to 9th position right now, trying to pull into the number 188 of Wes Wiegand right in front of him. And through the chicane here, he's made up some time here, so maybe the 48 will make a pass up into 8th place.
I think it will, because that was an atrocious corner exit from Wiegand. And now Bauer going to have the advantage to try and get up and make a move here. This is coming to 3 laps to go for them, though they are 1 lap down. And they're battling here for the 8th spot. Bauer can't do anything with him. We've seen a lot of mistakes out of Bauer, but this is culminating into a decent run for him. Up inside the top 10, has a chance to go for 8th. It's also, I'm going to go back to saying it's worth mentioning that none of these drivers who ran those long runs as, oh my gosh, Wes Wiegand, big trouble here out of turn number 1. We'll check in on this real quick. Get the replay for him. Just misses turn 1 entirely. Locks up. Gets the tail end of the Tums heartburn turn outside retaining wall, and he will carry on with this one. But none of those drivers who committed, or well, started to run that long run strategy to try and take a pit stop out of this race, none of them committed to actually running that long haul strat. They've all come in after 3 pit stops, and that's unfortunate that they kind of missed that opportunity, because you've got to look ahead at that kind of strategy opportunity and take advantage of it. If you know you're not going to be able to do it on pace, you've got to try and find some way to do it in the pit lane, and they had an opportunity here, Noah. Didn't quite capitalize on it, but I think maybe if I roast them a little bit, they might look at it next time. Regardless, this top 2 growing nearer once again.
Yeah, well, still, it's just a very incredible job by a lot of these drivers. This is a very interesting top 10, even top 5 for that matter. With drivers like Ed Osborne in 555, he's had a very amazing race from start to finish. He's ran at the top 10 all race long, which you've seen him struggle the past few weeks now as they approach that 1 to go mark. And then obviously with the top 3 of Winters, Robertson, and Miller, the name of the game has been that that undercut, and it has worked so well up until now. Is now Justin Winters, your new race leader, as they get ready to approach the final lap here at the Charlotte Roval.
And you saw into the chicane there on your screen, Brandon Robertson trying to go as deep as he could into the braking zone of that corner, coming into the chicane, and he locked him up. He got sideways into it, and he did not get the momentum out of the chicane that he needed to stay on the tail of Justin Winters. So we've passed 1 to go. The white flag has been shown to your race leader, the Allen's Body Shop number 88 Chevrolet. Justin Winters leading the way through 3 and 4 right now, and he's just going to try to hit his marks and stay smooth. Brandon Robertson's pressure from behind has been alleviated, and down onto the run to turn 5. Justin Winters holding on to what looks like a pretty easy win if he can just hit his marks for the rest of this lap.
It is now under 2 miles to go, nearing, I think, a mile and a half. I think under that now for Justin Winters. He's just got the length of Charlotte Motor Speedway to run around and collect this race win. It'll be the second now on the year, or on the season rather, for the number 88 car. Allen's body shop plastered all over that Chevrolet Camaro. He's got almost 2 seconds back to Brandon Robertson. It's going to take a big mistake here for Brandon to get up to him, and Justin Winters through the backstretch chicane very cleanly. All he has to do now is run through that final chicane. Turns 15, 16, and 17. What a tumultuous season it has been for Justin. Up and down. He's only got the 1 race win at Atlanta to boot, but finally revisiting the Southeast and going to not Atlanta, but Charlotte Motor Speedway. Justin Winters is finally a 2-time winner in the Bluegrass Iracing Series, and he takes the big fat dub at Charlotte Roval. What a race for him. Again, it's been a really up and down few weeks for him, and finally, I think a little bit of redemption there, getting his season righted. Travis Miller, the guy he's fighting for points, he comes in at 3rd place. He's got all the time in the world back to 4th. All he has to do is finish this one out here, Noah, and this is so important for this points battle because we aren't for sure that Justin Winters is going to lead with the points lead, but we're almost for sure. It depends on how those drop weeks fall.
Yeah, my best guess is since both of these guys led a lap, they both get the 2 bonus points for doing so. But on top of all of that, the most laps led, which I believe is going to go to the number 88 of Justin Winters, that should give him an extra 2 points in there. So again, this is going to be a big shakeup in the points championship as they head into the final 2 races. Going to be very interesting going into Martinsville to see how this shakes up. But again, John Kinder in the 21 rallies all the way back up to 4th. What looked to be an costly mistake that could have took him out of his championship. He's back in the position to where he would have been regardless, up in the 4th position. So even a blown engine cannot hinder Kinder, as now rallies up to a top 5. He's going to go into Martinsville without having to use a drop week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Noah, and that's the type of thing we see not only in motorsports, not only in iRacing, but just in sports, in life, is that when you are tested, when you have something go wrong, like John Kinder did, money shifting that car, you know you made that mistake, and it drives you, it motivates you, it pushes you to be better, to be an inch better, to be a second better, to be better on track, and John Kinder did pull that together. He stayed a lap down from the time that he had to come in and get that fast repair to the end of the race, but he was the first car a lap down when the checkered flag came out. So a big shout out to John Kinder for holding on and staying strong, just keeping his head down and running through the remainder of the race from that incident. John Kinder pulled in 4th place, so unfortunately we're not going to get to talk to him in our post-race interview with the top 3, but we will get to talk to Travis Miller, Brandon Robertson, and your winner, Justin Winters, in short period of time.
And, of course, there is the number 88 Allen's Body Shop Chevrolet Camaro. Huffy cheering him on in the YouTube chat. He's got other fans, of course, out there that are cheering this guy on, and he's going to make it again. 2 wins on the year now, tying the guys that he is battling, tying Travis Miller, tying John Kinder, tying Brandon Robertson. All 4 of those guys who have been considered the big 4, really now the big 3 between Winters, Kinder, and Miller. They all have 2 wins, and that's so important going into these final few races, these final few battles for these gladiators to figure it out. Boy, I should have used that line at Bristol. This is just... This is so big for Winters' season to keep it alive. And, I mean, it was always alive, but this really reasserts him as a championship favorite. It's been so long since he got his last win at Atlanta. This is so, so big for the 88 car. Now he's really keeping those other 2 in check, keeping them honest and forcing their next move. We'll talk to these drivers here shortly. We'll get their opinions on this evening's event, of course. Make sure to stick with us here at PitStop TV and enjoy a quick message from our partners, Tucson Sound Art and Permanent Makeup of Cryo in Maine. Do not go anywhere. We'll be talking to the top 3 here shortly. It's continuing now post-race coverage of the Bluegrass Iracing Series from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to PitStop TV, continuing coverage at Charlotte Motor Speedway's 2.28-mile Roval in Concord, North Carolina. It was a show this evening at the Roval. A lot of great racing put on by these 20 drivers, especially up at the front. We get to talk to those players in that scheme now, I guess pawns in that chess match, if you will. Justin Winters, of course, first up. He gets the big dub here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll just bring Justin right on in here. Justin, it's another big win for you, but it took a while to come back to you. From Atlanta to Charlotte, you stay in the Southeast with your wins, but man, it was quite a few races in between.
Yeah, but that was a tough race. Yeah, I'm hurting. That was tough.
Hey, you know, we heard on NASCAR's Happy Hour earlier this evening before we went live that those drivers were experiencing the same kind of difficulty. It's pretty tough, and those are real NASCAR Cup Series drivers, Joey Logano, Daniel Suarez, and Bubba Wallace. So it's definitely, I think, a grueling event. A grueling event to run, a grueling track to try and master, but you end up doing so at least versus the other 19 cars on the racetrack. You lead 22 laps as well. What was it like trying to battle Brandon Robertson when at one point you undercut him and then he decided, nah, I'll take those undercuts from here on out?
Oh, it was fun. I bet it made it interesting to call. It was fun. Thought Travis would be up there most of the race, which he was. Brandon was definitely class of the field, but we were able to pass him at the end of the race because he tried to do the undercut, and we got on the better end of it. I think we did the undercut first, and I learned a little bit about how much time I gained, how much time I lost, and then decided to do the overcut, and I seemed to gain on him at the
Yeah, it seemed like at first Robertson had the car to beat, but then you showed that it was the tires that put that car in front at the end of a run. So those last couple of runs, you had the better tires, and you outran him to the pit stop, and each time you'd get there, he would just pit right away. What was the strategy really for you to try and get by him, especially once he came back out, he was back in front of you again, and you had to try and get back by that 2 car there in the closing laps?
Well, I wanted to get by him clean. That was the main part. I could have probably spun him a handful of times, really, because I could outbrake him pretty good in some of the corners, and I got a real run off of coming back onto the Charlotte track, and I wanted it to be clean. I didn't want to dump him or get him loose and take a chance of him hitting the wall. I'm not that kind of race car driver, so I just waited for my opportune moment. He gave it to me, and I took it.
Speaking of racing clean and trying to avoid contact, there was some contact up ahead of the road for you, or I guess of you rather, between Brandon Robertson and Travis Miller. What was your view of all that at the start?
Boys go at it. I try to stay clear of it, and don't be into somebody else's problem or issues, and keep my nose clean. And hopefully, I'd finish up front, and I was able to. So. They were going at it at the beginning of the race, kind of shocking, but Brandon and Travis they're both kind of aggressive, so I was just kind of like, go at it, boys, and I'd sit back and watch and wait for my moment.
Well, Justin, on this, the 7th day of October 2020, congratulations to you winning here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out for this big win this evening?
Definitely Allen's Body Shop for being on the car. Huffman Designs for painting the car. It's a breast cancer awareness car. It's a pretty pink car. Want to thank my Uncle Alan for letting us put his name on the car, and thanks to Boots Industries for being on the car, and thanks for Bluegrass Iracing Series for putting on the race, and thanks to you guys for hosting.
Hey, we appreciate you for what you do out on the racetrack, giving us great races to call. What's more, congratulations this evening. I'm sure we'll be talking to you these last couple of weeks at Martinsville, Kentucky.
Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good night.
And that's Justin Winters wrapping up the evening with a big race win. Noah Carmichael, you've got second place finisher Brandon Robertson.
Indeed, I do. Brandon Robertson, after having 2 rough weeks at Bristol and Talladega, comes home to take home a P2 finish. 1 position short of what you would have wanted, but still must have been a very great feeling to finally be back in the top 3 here tonight at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Having a little bit of issues here. Brandon Robertson, Noah Carmichael, you got us? I can see he's trying to. I think he might be having a little bit of mic issues, so we'll just try and sit here for the meantime and hopefully get a word with him here in a second while he tries to figure this out. All right, well, we'll go try Brandon Robertson here in a sec, but we're going to move on with Travis Miller, who I'll hand over to Joe Donahue.
Absolutely. Travis Miller, this is Joe Donahue here with PitStop TV. Do you got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, Travis, we've talked about you before specifically with adversity and trekking through a race, and you had a little bit of a miscue at the beginning of this one with that entry to 15, 16, 17 with Brandon Robertson coming up and getting into your rear bumper. Talk about what were you thinking in that instance when you had that little contact with Brandon at the start of this one?
It's funny. I was really heated. I kind of just wanted to get back up there just to turn him. I don't know. It was the first 3 laps of the race. I kind of tapped him on the first initial start because I had some momentum and I accidentally just clipped him a little bit. And just in the back bumper, like it was a 0x, so it wasn't a big issue. But I was just braking a little earlier just to try and save my stuff, and he just barrel rolled it in there. And just, I'm lucky I even saved it. Same with him. So it was just, I was a little upset about it, but my spotter was just kind of calming me down, saying like, let's just look at the big picture here. I mean, we're not even a road course guys, so I just take it easy. And I knew he was going to be hard all night to try and beat for sure. So it is what it is. That's racing. It's hard racing, and it's all good.
Well, you say you're not much of a road course guy, but this is the only road course race of the season, and you pulled in a top 3. What did you do to prepare for tonight's race?
Aggressive hours of practice, a few holes in the wall. No, I'm just kidding. It was just a lot of practice, honestly. A lot of the guys with the Bluegrass series put up a lot of practice races, and that's just all it was, just turning laps and just trying to see like what points on the racetrack you could really gain some time, and where other points where you could kind of ease off and try and save the tires. So it was 100% just all practice, and whoever put in the most practice, I think it showed who would be up front.
Absolutely, and practice makes perfect. And you said you're not much of a road course guy. So were your expectations met? Were they beat? Were they not enough tonight? What do you think about your result compared to what you expected before the green flag dropped?
Oh, it was awesome. I was expecting to come in here and have to take a drop week. It was just, I'm really just, this is my second ever road course on iRacing, so I wasn't really expecting a lot. I was just, hoping for the best, and, just trying to I just wanted to keep my nose clean the entire race. After that lap 3 or 4 incident with Brandon, that was the only contact that we had for the rest of the race, and it was just trying to run my own race and let them do what they got to do up front, and just keep plugging along with the laps, and luckily we came away with a third. So
absolutely. And Travis, you're looking at Martinsville next time, and then we finish out our season with a full-length race at Kentucky. The drop races are going to start becoming a factor with the actual point standings. Obviously, we've been showing the point standings with respect to the drop weeks already here on PitStop TV, but talk about your outlook for Martinsville and Kentucky. Are you excited? Are you expecting good finishes? What is your outlook for the remainder of the season for this number 22 team?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I like Martinsville, and Kentucky's going to be a curveball just because of how many laps are there, and just keeping your car clean is going to be a big factor. But I like Martinsville and Kentucky, and the 2 drop weeks are really kind of just killing me. I mean, I've had a pretty good season of consistency, and the drop weeks are kind of jerking me around a little bit, which kind of sucks, but it's just, we knew that getting into it, and that would play a big factor, and it's definitely kept the points tight and exciting, and it's fun being able to do it with Justin and John and Brandon. They're all really close every week.
Absolutely, and you definitely put your name up in there with the guys up front every week. That white and gold car looked very good tonight. And tell us, before we let you go for the evening, Travis, do you have anybody to thank or anything else you want to add to the broadcast here for us?
Yeah, I just got to thank Gaston's Auto Sales, the Brp Iracing Series for all they do for me, Splash and Go Graphics, MDR Designs, Bickno Racing Products, the Bluegrass guys for putting this league on. I know it's tough, and a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes, and thanks to you guys for putting this on. It's a great broadcast.
Well, thank you very much, Travis. We appreciate you. You did an excellent job tonight. And as I said, adversity is always going to win you out, and you got third place tonight because of your ability to persevere in this one. So congratulations to you on a hard-fought and well-deserved third place, and we appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good evening, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So that's going to round out our interview with third place. So we're going to try to see if maybe we can get second place Brandon Robertson in here again, Noah, and we'll see if we can get our interview with the tied Toyota driver.
Let's try this once more. Brandon Robinson, you got us?
I do. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Great to hear. Well, one position short of where you wanted to finish. You've led a pretty good distance of the race with the undercuts you're performing, but still after 2 rough weekends, this must feel incredible coming out of here at Charlotte with this.
Yeah, it was. I mean, man, first of all, I want to shout out to Matt Grenier. He did a ton of practice this week with me, and it definitely showed on his performance. And Ed Osborne obviously did a really, really good job. I forget if he finished 5th or 4th, but he did really well as well. But yeah, just man, early on, I think I bumped Travis, which I feel bad about, and kind of messed up both of our cars. But we still had pretty decent pace. And then I think I got by him under green, and I just didn't want to give up the lead. I knew that the best place to be was in the front, and Justin, I think, got by me at one point, and I was just going to keep hitting 1 lap sooner if I could, and I think he actually was in the process of passing me at one other point, and I think he was to my right as we were entering the pit, and I just dove it down pit lane there. I just didn't want to give up the lead. I didn't want to give up the keys to the castle, but he was definitely able to get by me, and congrats to him. It was an epic battle for sure.
Well, you talk about how close it was. This must have felt like an endurance race, for the fact that there was no cautions. But even then, you had to be on your toes. What was the undercuts like for you to perform? Because we saw on the last one, you performed it and had it pretty well set up until you got past it in the ovals turns 1 and 2. What was it like trying to hold off the 88 for those remaining laps that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to try to pit every 14 laps, but I knew that my strategy was just going to be if I got past and I was within, striking distance, I think you could pick up 3 or 4 seconds on fresh tires. So if he got past me, I was just going to go into the pit and try to regain the lead and make him get back around me. So I knew I was at a disadvantage because he was always on one lap fresher tires, and he definitely was probably a little bit faster, but obviously getting by somebody is extremely difficult here. And I just let him take the inside there. He got a good run on me coming out of turn 2, and I was thinking about just diving it to the blue line, but I think I probably would have wrecked us both there. So I don't know. Then I just had to play chase at that point. He wasn't going to make any mistakes, I could tell.
Well, coming out of a track like this, you talked about was hard to pass. You now have to prepare for a track that's equally hard to pass at the paperclip known as Martinsville Speedway. What do you have to look forward to this weekend to try to prepare as you set in for the final 2 races of the season?
I think that Martinsville's going to be a lot easier to prepare for, obviously, with just 2 corners and they're pretty equal. So it's just going to be getting on a lot of laps and just getting the lap time pretty far down under qualifying and I haven't ridden Martinsville in a while, so I'm going to have to get to work, but I think I'll be pretty competitive there as well.
All right, well, before I let you go here, who do you have to thank for your incredible runner-up finisher tonight?
Nobody really. I mean, obviously, a couple weeks ago, I got a halfway bonus from Rims One, and they paid, I think, $10 for that. So I want to thank them for that. I think it was at one of the tracks a couple back. So I appreciate that. And obviously, we're trying to promote season 2 here. So if you thought that was exciting, sign up for season 2 and get yourself into the race.
Well, alrighty, sounds great. Hopefully you're able to put on the exact same kind of performance at Martinsville, and we get to see more out of you and talk to you again next week.
Hey, take it easy. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up with our post-race interviews. Now it's time to give our closing thoughts as we get ready to close it out for another incredible week of Bluegrass racing.
And of course, we saw 55 laps of great action this evening, and it all came down to the final few as some positions were finalized here among the ones you're looking at. Justin Winters with just 5, 6, 7 laps to go, I think somewhere in that range, finally gets by Brandon Robertson for the final time this evening. You heard Brandon Robertson say he didn't want to give up the race lead under any circumstances, but in the end, he didn't have a final pit stop to add to his total and undercut Justin Winters. It was over that last time that he got past. Travis Miller, the only other car on the lead lap, finishes some 47.5 seconds behind those two. John Kinder somehow blows the motor in this race on a money shift, recovers to exactly where he was when he made that mistake, up back in the top 4. Adam Lancaster, his teammate, finishes 5th spot, and that should move Lancaster into the 5th spot in points as well, overtaking Daniel Worthington. My mind stopped there for a second. Ed Osborne, how about this guy? I wasn't expecting a 6th place run out of him, and he was looking like he had a top 5 in him as well for most of the evening. He gets 6th spot. Matt Grenier up into 7th position. The only other car 1 lap down. Jack Bauer 2 laps down right there with Wes Wiggin 2 laps down, and then Joshua Abbey 3 laps down in 10th spot.
Finishing back in the 11th position, we're going to find the 51 of Brandon Young. Rounding out in 12th with the 08 Nicholas Noggle. Not the best performance that he would have hoped for, but still a good finish up there in the top 15. How about Scott Fritz? After 2 incidents that ripped off the front nose of his car after an early race incident with the heartburn turn, he rallies back to a 13th place finish. Rounding it back down there in the 14th position is the 38 of David Brackett. 15th, we're going to find the 83 of Chris LeBourgeois. And 16th is going to be the 113 of Daniel Worthington. 17th, finishing 5 laps down. And the last car on track is going to be the 13 of Brian Terry. And then last, after a DNF early in the race, is going to be Wyatt Brackett and the 33. And then 2 DNSs being do not start, belonging to the 43 of Josh McKinney and the 8 of Nick Mills.
So that's going to wrap it up with your finishing order tonight here at the Charlotte Roval. It's been an awesome 55 laps. We saw that the skills and the practice rise drivers to the top. Travis Miller, Brandon Robertson, and of course tonight's race winner Justin Winters, the driver, the number 88, getting to the line first. And the preparations that came in for the Roval race got them to the finish up front, but now they start their preparations for the penultimate round of the championship when we head up to Martinsville, Virginia. The paperclip-shaped track is Martinsville Speedway, and that will be hosting the 11th race of the 12-race season here for the Bluegrass Iracing Series. We're excited to bring it to you next time, but hopefully you've enjoyed tonight at the Roval. I think tonight went very well. The drivers showed that they had the patience to get through the race, and they had the skill to keep off of each other and the wall. For the most part, we didn't see too many major incidents.
And of course, helping us get up to Martinsville next week is going to be all of our partners here in Tucson Sound Art, TucsonSoundArt.com. You can use PitStop TV as your promo code and get 10% off of your purchase when you make your purchase of your Tucson Sound Art device. I've got one myself. I listen to music on it just about every day now, and it is so worth it as well. I mean, it's something that you might not think you need, but you need it in the end. It's so cool. It could be any moment from your life, a graduation, a race win, a wedding, what have you, up on your wall, and it plays music, and there's no wires attached unless you can use normal alkaline batteries to keep that thing charged, or you can plug it into the wall. It's up to you. It's so convenient. It mounts to your wall very, very easily. Again, you can go to TucsonSoundArt.com for some more information about them, and you make sure to use promo code PitStopTV at checkout as well to get 10% off. I want to thank the Brp Iracing Series. We'll be covering them as well beginning October 26th. That's a Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll have Jake Baticki and Chris Nunn there to cover that, as well as some others, I'm sure, throughout the season. And I'm looking forward to bringing some more dirt racing back to PitStop TV. We've had 360 sprint cars before. We'll have them again. Looking very much forward to that one. Permanent Makeup in Cryo, Maine. What more can we say about them other than they are just a huge supporter of us here at PitStop TV, Whiplash Media, Whiplash Racing. They do a lot for us, and now we even have a commercial to show for it as well. So I get to see kind of what they're doing over there at Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine, and Ashley Bollier, Evan Bollier, putting in a lot of work over there as well as all of the other employees at their Auburn, Maine, Lewiston, Maine, and Harrison, Maine locations. You can check them out at permanentmakeupinmaine.com. On Facebook at Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, or even call or text them at 207-358-8683. So again, make sure to check them out. Facebook, their website, Permanent Makeup in Maine, or call or text them to get a consultation. Even if Permanent Makeup and Cryo isn't quite for you, you might know somebody who's looking for that kind of work done, so definitely check them out. At least support those who support us. And finally, as always, we got to thank Whiplash Media, PitStop TV's new parent organization that specializes in various sim racing resources, including paint schemes, stream overlays, iRacing, camera packs, and more. Whiplash Media is also working on its presence in real racing, offering services like photography, social media management, and public relations. Go to whiplash-media.com for more information. Noah, before we close this out, I want to get your final thoughts on this evening as well, because it was a wild 55 laps.
It was an exhausting 55 laps, while also being entertaining at the same time. It's kind of weird, 2 back-to-back endurance races in their own rights after Operation Motorsports at the same track. So we didn't have to go far. Could have slept in the press box for all I cared with how long.
How do you know I didn't?
Good point. Greg, get the sleeping bag and a pillow pep and just sleep up there. He's watching.
No. I slept at my camera perch up top.
So you have to sleep out with mosquitoes. I see. It's still just an incredible race. 2 great nights of action from the Charlotte Roval, and it's lovely to see what these guys have been able to do. Even on tracks like a road course, which are notoriously not the most entertaining races to watch, they still put on thrillers with the lead not even being more than 2 seconds most of the night. It just tells you how tightly packed those top 4 are in the field, for that matter, because they went green flag from lap 1 to lap 55, and we still had racing all around this track.
And of course, that concludes our coverage tonight of the Bluegrass Iracing Series. We at PitStop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Be sure to join us again Sunday night for the Superior Class Auto Racing Cup Series at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Should be a lot of fun. On Monday for the Northwest GT3 Challenge, we go down to JP Costa's home track, Interlagos in Brazil. That one, I think, is also going to be very, very exciting. They've had 3 great races to open their season up at Barcelona, Brands Hatch, and now Okayama as well a couple of nights ago. That's going to be a lot of fun, taking those Audis, those Ferraris, those BMWs. No Mercedes and McLarens actually in that field. We had a Ford at one point, but it's tipped out. That's going to be exciting on Monday night. And, of course, we come back to the Bluegrass Iracing Series, staying relatively close by, only a couple hours up the road from Charlotte at Martinsville Speedway in Danville. Well, actually, no, it's Martinsville, Virginia, very close to Danville, rather. And that's going to be very fun for the continuation of the Bluegrass Iracing Series as we get down to the championship run. These last couple of races are going to be so important for these drivers to capitalize on every opportunity and every mistake from the drivers they are racing. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/PitStopTV, on Twitter at PitStopTV_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/C/PitStopTV1. For all of PitStop TV, Noah Carmichael, Joe Donahue, and myself in the booth, Trey Shuttlesworth on social media, I am Andrew Cardinale IV for PitStop TV, and we will see you next time. Have a great night, and again, make sure to join us again Sunday evening.